There we go. Welcome, everybody. We're excited to have you here with us on day 2 of Texas Action for Healthy Kids School Health It's Academic, our Fall Summit. We had a great day yesterday. Alice will fill you in on that shortly. For now, just to let everybody know, this is being recorded, which it just announced. And I would like everybody to stay on mute, at least for now. If when we have questions, we'll open it up and you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can drop your questions into the chat. We have put the agenda and bios in the chat for you to download. And if you have problems with the audio, you can definitely switch the audio part to your phone and have a call-in option. Presenter resources will be provided along with the link to the recording after this is over. And just a little bit, I'm Michelle Smith. I am the Senior Manager for School Health Operations with Action for Healthy Kids. I've been involved with this organization for over 20 years and worked alongside of many others to advance school health initiatives, programs, and policies here across the state of Texas. So Action for Healthy Kids is a 20-plus-year-old organization that was formed to help combat obesity by working through schools and making schools healthier learning environments. So we work with families, we work with school districts. We have provided grants across the years. We have lots of great resources on our website, which feel free to go and visit and download. Everything from tips on healthy snacks at school to family fitness nights. So I hope you'll visit our website and get a little more information about that. This is our current steering committee. All of these different organizations participate on a monthly basis to guide what we do in Texas. Texas is the only state that still has a steering committee and active state members. And we still do a newsletter and do webinars. And these individuals are the reason we can continue to do this. All volunteers from our state agencies, other nonprofit organizations, school districts, and we want to thank them. You'll see some of them as participants during the day-to-day as well. But we appreciate all of you and all of your dedication to child health. The other thing I'd like to make note of, if you're not familiar with the Texas SHAC network, this network was formed during the pandemic to try to find a place where we could put resources for school districts and their school health advisory councils and make it easy for them to access. So if you visit the Texas SHAC network, you'll find links to national organization resources, Texas-based resources, links to the laws that govern SHACs, the guide from the Department of State Health Services that outlines how SHACs should operate. So if you're if you're interested, have questions, that is a great place to start, as well as you can always reach out to me or to Alice or one of our steering committee members if you have specific questions. And then if you're looking for webinars, we have put all the different webinars and previous summits on a YouTube channel, and you can visit that channel and find different topics on SHACs, on parent engagement, social emotional learning, school nutrition. So if you want to visit there and access some of those great webinars, they're at your disposal. So I'm going to turn this over to Alice to share a little bit about yesterday.
Yes, well, thank you, Michelle. So as Michelle noted, my name is Alice Kirk, and I am honored to serve as the Texas Action for Healthy Kids State Steering Committee Chair. And I want to express appreciation to everybody that's on today, especially to Michelle. She is the glue that keeps our steering committee together, and to all of the other steering committee members who are on that have helped in developing the agendas for this summit and for helping locate and identify our speakers. Um, as Michelle had noted earlier, if you are just joining us, I know a couple of people kind of hopped on a little bit later in the chat. If you would kind of reintroduce yourself, if you have not already, with your name and the organization, and then maybe what part of the state you're in. Texas is huge, and we love to try to have as much outreach as we can statewide. So feel free to drop into the chat. And I did see some names that were on yesterday and see some new names today. So welcome. If you missed yesterday's session, I highly encourage you to go back at your convenience and watch our recordings from yesterday. Michelle, do you want to go to the next slide? Um, Before I do a recap, let's just quickly take a look at what our agenda looks like for today. We are going to have a brief recap, and then we start the day off with a presentation on mental health and social emotional learning for students and staff. We then move into our physical education session. And we will be joined again with our amazing catch break trainer facilitator for a little bit of a morning brain boost. And then we will round out the morning with a session on youth risk prevention that one of our state steering committee members and partners from Department of State Health Services will be leading. So let's take a real quick recap from yesterday. Okay. Oh, you see all of our various presenters. And what I'd like to do is actually get some feedback because we did have some great attendance yesterday. If you were on yesterday, I would love to hear kind of what your takeaway message was. Just one gem or two that you would like to share from yesterday. Karen, I see you on screen. I'm going to call on you first.
I'm gonna hide. No. Um, yeah, let's see. I mean, as always, just everything. I always take away something from each segment. And I think, from, just even my co-shack panelists with Amanda and giving me great ideas. So as I'm presenting, I'm writing down stuff. To listening to the principals, I think again, getting that administrative perspective and knowing that there is buy-in, you need it from the top down to the bottom up, right? And I think again, on the flip side, not the bottom, but those kids, I think, always, always, always the youth voice. They're so inspirational. And again, I'm working with some programs, even at my own school, trying to do a vaping thing with my elementary. And I wrote down everything that they listed as their top concerns, from childhood obesity to vaping to just sleeping and balancing those extracurriculars. So, I want to build that into my messaging. Like this is straight out of the mouth of the teenagers. Even talking to our elementary parents that, we want to keep those blinders on, but, as they start leaving elementary and going into middle school, it's that reality. And, what can we do? And I think the teens gave some great suggestions. So sorry, that was a lot on every segment, but I just thought it was a great first day.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Michelle, do you want to click onto the next slide if you don't mind? So here were some of the takeaways that Michelle and I kind of looked at as well. I think some of the comments, again, whether it was the superintendent who kicked us off yesterday, Tabitha did a wonderful job of setting the stage of this the entire focus of our conference with student health and it being academic and imperative to their success. We talked about some of the presenters really focused on that need for continual communication and education with parents. We talked about just that value in hearing a parent voice, just as important, as Karen noted, having that youth voice. Some of our youth leaders were just wonderful, thinking outside the box, the value in trying some new programming regarding everything from, healthy heroes, programs to encouraging more fresh local produce and scratch cooking in schools, to really thinking about how a school's culture and climate is integral to not only student success, but staff success. And so, those were some of the takeaways that we saw. Um, I, s- I see a couple of other names from yesterday. I'm going to call on a couple of others that I know were on. Megan,
Oops.
Hello, good morning.
good morning.
Hey.
What's a takeaway you would share?
So first of all, I apologize. My two dogs are playing in the background. But for me, it was just the kids were amazing. I mean, they were absolutely phenomenal. But one of the things that stood out most for me outside of the kids, one of the things that stood out for me most outside of the kids was the fact that a lot of your superintendents and principals and people in administration aren't aware of some of the policies that are in the shacks. And so, or some of the policies that are being made higher up at like the federal level when it comes to things like physical education and nutrition. And so keeping them informed, I just automatically assume that they are already aware of those things, when it feels like maybe they've got other things to focus on. So that was a big takeaway for me.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Okay. Um, at this, in addition to this, Michelle, did you have any other takeaways you wanted to highlight?
No, I thought the kids, really inspired me and made me very confident that we have support moving forward around child health. So I thought it went great. I really enjoyed hearing from the superintendents and the principals. And you made a really good point, Megan. It's everybody assumes, and it's just like thinking your school board knows about things. And your school board's constantly turning over and has to be re-educated, just like legislators who don't understand what a school health advisory council is. And we have to go back in and re-explain coordinated school health. And it's a constant education process that, we have to make sure we're vigilant and that we do that education. Because we're seeing across the state and across the nation with districts struggling to keep the whole child and school health as a priority. So we're going to really have to work hard. Since the pandemic, things have been so focused on the learning loss and making sure that kids they have plenty of academic time, and they're losing sight of the fact that if they're not healthy, if they don't get breaks, they don't get activity, they don't eat right, they can't learn. So I heard quite a bit yesterday, and the challenges that our kids are facing around vaping and bullying and social media and cell phones, that's a big, huge topic. So a lot of things that were said yesterday, I'm hearing from other districts everywhere. So it's really important that we have dedicated people like the ones that are on these calls today and yesterday working on this constantly. So thank you.
Yes, agreed. Thank you. And thank you for taking time to join us today. All right, so we're going to go ahead and kick off. And we are going to start the morning with a topic that, for those that were on yesterday, really was pervasive throughout the entire day. From the time we started through, I think, every single one of our sessions yesterday at some point, including our youth that rounded off the end of the day, talked about stress and mental health and social emotional learning. And so this is indeed a topic that we want to, delve a little more into. So I am going to turn things over to Miss Michelle Smith, who is going to moderate our very first session.
Thanks, Alice. I'm excited to be able to moderate this session. I think we have some very strong presenters, and the topic is one that is top of mind at every district. Some districts have been more successful in implementing programs around mental health and social emotional learning than others. So having the opportunity to hear from some of our districts as well as our experts is making this, I think, a very important session. We have asked our panelists to each share their experiences and talk about how they have approached student mental health and staff mental health. There's been more focus on, if staff aren't healthy, they can't help students. So really needing to spend some time on that perspective as well. So we have January Davis, who is from Spring Branch ISD, Dr. Mahadavan, did I say that right? Close?
Mahadevan, but you can call me
David,
Dr. Yes, thank you.
With AgriLife Extension Services, and Stephanie Zavaleta, who is with Point Isabel ISD. And we're excited to have all of you with us this morning. I think I've also have some questions that we'll get into, but I would like each of you to share a little bit about your work and your position, and then we'll ask questions. So January, do you want to get us started?
Sure, I would love to. Again, good morning. I'm January Davis, and I'm the Mental Health and Crisis Counselor for Spring Branch ISD. I'm responsible for the entire K through 12, their mental health as well as crisis that take place in the district. So I'm excited to be here. My background includes 25 years of work in education in the capacity of being a classroom teacher to campus counselor as well as district level counselor in supporting crisis in other districts as well. My time has been in ALEAF ISD as well as Spring Branch.
Awesome. Dr. Mahadavan?
All right, thank you. I'm going to share a couple of slides real quick here. Oh, there you are. Okay, thank you. So my name is Lakshmi Mahadevan. I am with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. I'm really glad to see a lot of my colleagues are on here today as well. And I am the mental health and well-being specialist and an associate professor for providing statewide services. And our focus is, next slide, please. We really are here to help you meet this goal that was stated on the Texas School Mental Health website. That's essentially, if you are able to provide students with skills for managing emotions, establishing and maintaining positive relationships, and responsible decision-making, the outcomes, particularly is as far as making their mental health needs being met, we are able to provide those community supports to all statewide, that we can step in and give you some help so that these particular goals can be met, that students have better academic performance and effective school and positive life outcomes. So to that end, I'll give you a brief overview of a few of our programs. So next slide, please. I do want to reiterate that we provide resources and services just really where everybody is at. We are located 250 of our 250 rural counties have an AgriLife representative on ground, which is really one of the best networking opportunities for local accessibility, and overcoming those geographical barriers is pretty easy. In addition to that, our agents are out in the state doing lots of different types of services and programs. So they're not limited to in-person programming or virtual programming like as community classes or community education, but you'll find our agents at health fairs. You'll find them providing a lot of resources that are very that are fun yet accessible, say, for example, mental health awareness bracelets. And so what we're able to do with agents is get them to talk to communities in a safe way about mental health and access the information for those communities that works best for them. So, for example, posts through social media, newsletters, and then, of course, in-person programming. So some of our in-person and virtual programmings include Mindful Self, which is a mindfulness program for grades 6 to 8 that might be particularly pertinent for this group to know about. And AgriLife can come and teach your middle school graders to truly understand how to incorporate mindfulness into their work in a daily basis. And it really can never start too early as far as we're concerned when it comes to stress management. And when we talk about adults working with youth, such as all the individuals on here today, we can provide youth mental health first aid to you so that you can be better positioned to catch those early signs and symptoms and have safe mental health conversations, sort of as a mental health first aid responder, because you might be the first person who sees what's happening with our students, and we can give you some of those tools and skills. And then we have adults. We work with adults all across the board on programs such as Stress Less with Mindfulness. And we also provide you with adult mental health first aid, so you can help peers and colleagues and family members also get on that journey to preventing crises and intervening early. Building resilience for work-life balance, that is another suite of programs that we offer. And then specifically for youth, we are able to provide building resilience as an employability skill, and then building resilience to bust stress. You notice that our focus is very much on preventing crises such as dying by suicide, as well as self-harm through substance use misuse, and promoting well-being as an overall thing. What I love about all our programs is, or any interactions that we have with the community, they leave with a skill that they feel they can apply like tonight and feel better about their future in whatever kinds of ways they're able to reach or want to help their own mental well-being. And that could include nutrition and physical health, as well as mental health. Next slide, please. I also want to let you know that we've collaborated all across the board with different types of partners. We work with school districts individually. What I love is that a lot of our AgriLife agents tend to be members of SHACs. So we are kind of really in there embedded with all of you as you do your work. And then we collaborate with Texas Education Agency at large. And then through the education service centers, which are across the board, they bring us in to provide programming to their districts and the teachers around their professional development for their school staff. And that's like 20 ESCs across the state that we can collaborate with. What I like is that we serve as a point of contact following a school-based crisis, but we don't focus on just crisis counseling or any of that kind of immediate following a crisis. We then take the information we have, the research-based evidence we have, and develop programming that allows us to then prevent and then have early intervention strategies so that future crises can be prevented. So, for example, I've worked and provided adult mental health first aid to city personnel in Uvalde. And that was about a year. They contacted me an anniversary after the anniversary of the school shootings because they wanted to be more of a preventive mode. So that is an example of how we can help following a crisis. Next slide, please. I thought the best way to tell you what we do is give you some testimonials and how we impact everybody through our work focused on mental health and wellness. Here is a parent who attended an adult mental health first aid class. She said that she was able to calm her daughter down, who was going through a panic attack. Typically, what may have taken her hours to calm down took her 30 minutes because of the way in which she was able to apply the plan that we taught her. A couple of teenagers who attended Building Resilience to Bust Stress, they said, I have the capability to bust my stress. I just need to prioritize my self-care strategies. And then this was one that I actually got tearful at, to realize that there'll be better times and nothing is that bad to end it. So a couple of teenagers reacting to our programs. And that is all I wanted to say. Thank you. And I will include my contact information or I think, Michelle, you'll provide it. So thank you, everybody. And I'm very honored to be here.
There it is. Yeah, awesome. My third presenter, evidently, I think I sent the link to the wrong address. But I'm hoping that she is joining us. Stephanie, have you joined us yet? Yes, you are there. Good morning, Stephanie. I apologize. I think I had left the dash out of your email. So welcome. I'm glad you could join us. And basically what we're doing right now is I would ask that you share a little bit about your district and your position and what you're doing around student and staff mental health.
Okay. Hi, my name is Stephanie Zavaleta, and I am the district counselor for Point Isabel ISD in Port Isabel, Texas. We have 4 campuses in our district, 2 elementary, 1 junior high, and 1 high school. And so in order to promote student and staff mental health, we have Zen dens at all 4 of our campuses. We have sensory rooms at all 4 of our campuses. And then we also use Pulse by LineWise to kind of check and gauge how students are feeling and how staff are feeling throughout the week. They can use it throughout the day. And it's kind of just like a little internal temperature check for the kids. And then that goes back to our counselors so we can make sure to reach out to students and staff.
Awesome. Thank you. And welcome, Stephanie. Appreciate you jumping on.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I'm going to stop sharing the screen and we're going to kind of talk through some questions that we have. And if you have questions, please drop them into the chat. I think this is a topic where everyone needs to know more and has specific issues that they'd like to talk about. Right now, I would like to start with what you think the biggest challenge for districts who are working to support mental health needs are facing. And then what advice you could give them, you know, what are some of the first steps they should take if they don't have a program around mental health for staff and students. And I'm going to ask January to start this one.
Okay, thank you. I think the biggest challenge is making sure capacity is increased. A lot of times we focus on the academics, and I think it's important to remember that if the whole child isn't well, then learning won't take place, no matter how the child's intellect is, what the IQ levels are. I think it's important to make sure to increase capacity as it relates to self-management of students, because we won't be able to be with them at all times, but allowing them to have self-care, not only with themselves, but learning how to be compassionate for others. I think oftentimes we neglect our staff because we expect adults to be adults and they should be able to handle things, but we know that in the day and time we're living in, it's really important that we're there to support the staff in education, with people changing careers and deciding to go into different industries and fields. It's important that we have staff retention. So it's vital that we create an environment and a culture within a school district to make sure the staff feel supported and that they're equipped to handle the dynamics of the ever-changing landscape of students and the human dynamics of how mental health is impacting our world today. So I think it's important to not only support the students, and a lot of times our focus is that, but as well as supporting the staff, and that include administrators and other stakeholders that are at campuses, and having things that are equipping our parents as well. Because when the village works together, I think that's vital to have parents work in conjunction with the schools to collaborate, because we can't work in isolation, because the impact won't happen there. We can't parent students, but we can help parents and equip them with different resources, different strategies and things of that nature to help to see the dynamic of their students and what we're seeing at school, working in conjunction with the families. I think it's vital.
Thank you. Dr. Mahadavan?
Thank you. So I truly believe that what a lot of us feel, all of us seem to feel like we have to work in silos, and only we are the ones focused on mental health, for example. And I loved January's point about knowing And I think the village is there. And I think just equipping the village with the appropriate skills and tools that can be generalized for many, many, many generations to come, I think that's where we need to build. So our focus should often be, of course, crisis is important. We want to respond to a crisis. And unfortunately, those crises are increasing more and more at the individual level in terms of bullying or having to deal with social media. But then at the group level, where a lot of school students feel like they are not able to perform because they are all considered one cog in the wheel and are part of this larger wheel and do not feel like their individualized needs can be met. For example, a study skill that only is most appropriate for them, they're not able to use any kind of strengths-based approach. They just have to be regurgitating and demonstrating to knowledge that they are not able to acquire the skills for, just simply because it is not their interest or it is not something. So then failure becomes a perception that's rampant. So what I'd like to do is really just remind all of us, first of all, what resources already exist, and ask our schools at every level to note the successes from last year. Okay, so if you did have a crisis, how did you respond? What did we learn? And let's reapply those lessons this year so that every time we are able to demonstrate to ourselves and our parents, our students, that resilience is possible, that we can learn. We don't have to let history repeat itself. We don't have to let the damage to be so prevalent that it just keeps continuing to damage us. We can really start rebuilding quicker, faster, and then bouncing back stronger, because the crises are going to remain, but we can get to a place where saying, all right, I can catch things early. I can intervene in a way that I feel is competent through something like youth mental health first aid, for example, but also really get individuals to note their successes, because when a crisis happens again, or when we are challenged, we just forget that we're here today, so we're resilient. And so we've solved problems before. We just need to remember how to solve them again. So, and then noting for ourselves who our heroes have been in this regard. And often that includes much more than the school, right? It includes a lot of people surrounding the school, like industry partners, for example, or we have individuals who serve on our parents who have graduated from our schools, or students who have graduated. Sounds like yesterday you all had a very powerful student testimonial. So if a student learns from another student that they did it, then they're likely to be inspired to do it themselves. And if they can do it, or if they can recover, I can as well. So let's all have a way to model resilience across the board to everybody, so that we don't always feel like we're failing, but that we're actually succeeding, and then succeeding to a larger extent every time we're challenged.
Good advice. Thank you so much. Stephanie.
Yes, so I'll just kind of piggyback off of both what was previously said. I think it's definitely it's a holistic approach, and it takes everybody involved, from the parents to the students to the staff members, all really connecting and communicating. I think that's something that we really focus on here in our district, is making those connections. Because when you make those connections, it's going to open up communication, and communication is key when, you're talking about mental health, and like the ladies said, if the student if students and staff aren't taken care of mentally, and their mental wellness isn't doing well, then academically, like, you're going to see those gaps start coming through. We are very blessed in our district. Our superintendent is a former counselor. And so as a former school counselor, Ms. Capistran is definitely at the forefront. And so it definitely comes from the top. If our superintendent believes it, then our principals believe it, then our admin believe it. And something that we've done this year to really help this engagement and kind of start the conversations with communication is, in our elementaries, of course, we use an SEL curriculum, and it's actually taught throughout the day. So it's kind of like a specials class. And then at our junior high and our high school campus, we've embedded like a mentoring period, and we've strategically kind of tried to structure some of these students with these teachers so that way they can build this capacity, build that rapport. So that way everyone has a safe space to talk. And then our counselors, they do a phenomenal job. And really, the ladies mentioned this, sometimes our staff, like, we assume they're adults and they kind of get put on the backside or on the back burner with how they're feeling, but they're just like anyone else. It's hard to walk through the door and then say, okay, whatever's bothering me outside, I'm coming into work and I'm just going to focus on that. And so we definitely utilize our service center partners at Region 1, Yvonne and Wanda. They are amazing. And so they're always there to kind of offer help and support. And then we really try to just get to know our teachers, and more than just like, how's that math class going? Or like, what students are you struggling? More like, how are you? How is your family? And I think it's those simple steps of really building that connection and community and communication that really, those are the resources that are kind of very simple and they're in front of us. And it's that rapport that we build.
Thank you. That's definitely good insights. And I noticed that Dr. M has dropped in some tips for student mental health when returning to school, which I think can be extremely helpful. So when it comes, we talked a little bit about staff mental health and how important it is that staff be healthy. They have to come back in and help their children. And if they're not feeling healthy, it's really a challenge. Is there anything specific that your district is doing to address the needs of the adult population? How have y'all focused on staff mental health? Stephanie, well, you mentioned one thing, the
program that we utilize to refer out. A lot of times when it comes to counseling, staff members, it's a dicey situation where you may not want to disclose things to another, whether it be a campus counselor, because of course our campus counselors are the mental health experts at the campus level, and they are there to support the staff as well. But some things you may need to outsource. And so we do have, like I said, a great employee assistance program where we refer out to staff members, and it's free of charge. It's something the district pays for, and it's confidential. And so just making sure they're aware of that, they have access to that. It's something we push district-wide as well as from the campus level, but so that they know that, okay, counseling it's a lifelong process. It's not we're all lifelong learners, but it's important for self-care to be ongoing. It's not just a specific time. And once you may be over that hump, so we make sure we push the employee assistance program, and then we're there to support and set up a culture and an environment within our campuses through the administration as well as the campus leadership. We, like mentioned before, we have safe spaces for teachers, lounges and Zen-dens and things of that nature where teachers can go and have support. We make sure we embed in our daily schedule where different departments meet together and collaborate. So, new teachers can mentor. We have a great mentor program as well, where new teachers are being mentored by seasoned teachers. And so that they don't feel alone coming into, some of them are fresh out of college, or they might, even those that have been in the industry a while, it's a great opportunity to collaborate with other human beings that are in the same field that you're in, do in the same work, where you can learn from and grow from each other. So I think it's important to set that tone within a school district.
Thanks, January. Stephanie.
So our campus, our district is a very small district. But what we try to do to help support our staff mental health is probably similar to Spring Branch. We do refer out because a lot of times, since our district and our community is so small, a lot of people that they either work with or that are here on campus for them to talk to, they probably know them outside of school as well. And so I think we can all agree sometimes it's a little bit easier to talk to someone who has that like non-biased like opinion. But we do offer a referral program that of course aligns with like what our school insurance is and all of that good stuff for them. But then what we also try to do is through our the Pulse program that we use here at our district, that's kind of like, I guess like that lower tier where it kind of addresses those school or cultural concerns that teachers have. And sometimes they just want to talk and they just want to vent. And so they will go to their campus counselor, or we have an LPC, or they'll reach out to me and say, hey, Steph, I just kind of want to like kind of let some stuff out, and it's great, and we're always happy to hear them. But then on top of that, what we also are doing is every month we have a non-instructional day for our staff members, and so they come on campus, and half of the day is spent on professional development, but the other half of the day is kind of a time where we will either bring in, whether it's yoga, or we'll do like an arts and crafts activity, or we'll try to do something that really allows them to do self-care when they kind of feel like maybe they don't have time, because we always have all these millions of things going on and our head is like a little hamster wheel. So we try to provide that time for them to kind of just like take a step back, and then also providing them with like a little wellness newsletter each month, so they can just try different little tips, whether it's outdoor tips, indoor tips, things they can do at home. And so that's how we try to support our staff.
Awesome. That's great. You're being so proactive. Dr. M, do you have any suggestions for
So I'm on a mission to remind everybody to understand and manage what I call educator fatigue. It sets in. It's akin to compassion fatigue, where you really end up wanting to be perfect in everything we do and serve every student in a way that's perfect. But it's in a way what causes us to feel failure almost constantly and always feel like we're falling below our own standards. So when I do my trainings with staff, I ask us to really, really just go back and think of the fact that we have come this far. We have some teachers out there who've served for 30 years. We can learn from you. We've had new teachers who come in who really could get inspired by you because you've lived through it all, the changes in law. You've managed to graduate at least 95% of your students with the skills that you intended to teach them. Counselors, other individuals, principals, all of us have vast number of years of experience where we've remained resilient, cognizant, stayed on top of everything else. What I call them are internal subject matter experts. And also it's very customized to each school district, almost every campus. So we can come in as statewide experts or individuals, but at the end of the day, your story, I love her point that day, Stephanie, of saying that we have professional development in the morning, but then we can have a discussion later in the afternoon about how we are at the individual level dealing with our students. And that is a very specific thing, but I love to be able to cultivate like a built environment where, oh, I know they did that last year. How did they do it? Or I can point you to a teacher who did it. And so that really just helps. That lived experience is phenomenally something that is a resource that we don't tap into very much. We really want to create that peer support level. And so we all walk in and every day feels like being part of a support group rather than, oh, I have to struggle on my own and nobody gets what's happening to me. So I think preventing educator fatigue, giving them hope that we don't have to just, let every standardized test bog everybody down. We don't have to really, because we dealt with it last year. So let's go back and find a way to deal with it again this year, but applying again the fact that we have some experts who can tell us what they've been doing so far to be able to combat it, and also then help us. It's coming, so let's be prepared. And that, I think, would be a great message for all of us to kind of tap into and know that there is always a source locally that understands what we're going through, and then use that information to prevent educator fatigue, so that we can keep our standards realistic, accomplished, obtainable, that kind of thing. And at the same time, find ways to measure our success and then re-strategize or reevaluate as needed, so that we can retool or repurpose something that already exists and don't always have to start from scratch.
Good perspective. So yesterday, the students talked a little bit about mental health, and some of the things that they mentioned were cell phone usage, social media bullying. What have you seen as contributing factors to student stress and mental health? And are there things that you have done specifically to address some of those issues at your district, or you have suggestions on how districts can address some of these issues? Stephanie, you want to start us off this time?
Sure. So yes, there's definitely been, the cell phone usage is kind of probably a controversial topic at many of the campuses. Students and parents like there's parents and students like students to have their cell phone for safety. And as teachers and educators, sometimes it can be a distraction. So it's definitely a controversial topic. So what we've created in our school, and it's, kind of thanks to our SHAC committee, they kind of helped us brainstorm this out, is we have phone zones and no phone zones. And so students know the areas where they can use their phone and utilize it. But then what we also try to do is during these mentoring periods that they do have at the secondary campuses, because that's typically where the phones are at elementaries, we do not allow cell phones. But at the secondary, what we do is during these mentoring periods, we are providing lessons and providing information on how to use their phone and how the phone can be used in a positive way and positive aspects, as opposed to this like negativity and it's where it kind of gets into that cyberbullying issue. But we also do make sure that we address with our students at the beginning of the year. We are our district does not allow bullying. We are a zero tolerance. And so we make sure that we follow through with that and making sure that the kids know that if they are bullying or they are doing anything they aren't supposed to be doing with their phones, that their privileges will be taken away. And so it's definitely something that is very time consuming. But we kind of can see the benefits if we look at kind of talking back about how when you look at last year and like things that didn't work and now what are we doing this year, saying no phones last year didn't work, and it was kind of just like getting these text messages or these negative access to phones. This year, we are allowing phones in certain areas, but then also being proactive and teaching kids proper use of cell phone usage. And, social media can be a good thing. It's a way that a lot of people can be positive and build people up. And so kind of teaching those kids, the students, these things, and also teaching parents these things is a way that we're trying to, like, the tools out there and we're going to use it. The phone is not going away anytime soon. And so it's now that it's a resource, how can we use this for the benefit? How can we use this in the positive light?
Awesome. Thank you. Dr. M, do you have any?
I really like the idea of all of us really modeling every day for students what we need them to do with all these different aspects of, because it is a reality that is part of their lives. How can we take whatever messages they are getting from wherever they get it, whether it's during school or after school, but to interpret it in a way that doesn't feel like it is depleting their own self-beliefs, and even if it is not construed as, even if it is not an actual bullying instance, people can still feel bullied by anything at the end of the day, right? It is getting to a point where, so what I'd like us all to really I like to remind teachers to weave in or any conversations that happen. It could be on the bus, it could be in the school cafeteria, but let's weave in our own stories of, okay, how I deal with social media or how I deal with sometimes, it's very difficult for me to use my cell phone or not use my cell phone, say on the plane, right? We are all challenged, right? When we're not allowed to use our cell phone on the plane. Okay, well, how do I deal with it? And those kinds of things remind students that they have similar problems as us, and we have solutions that are that can be implied to them. So reminding those students that none of this is set in, it's not new to us. I think a lot of issues that happen, students just feel like nobody understands them, because it's true. They do have some challenges that we never faced when we were growing up. And it's completely understandable that students feel like nobody gets them. But as we do problem solve right now, in this age, we're all living together in the same age where we are all dealing with similar challenges. But if you can let our students know that it is possible to remain resilient and at the same time turn these messages around so that they can feel empowered too. For example, really walk them through their bullying complaint process, right? Make that a lesson plan, so they don't feel scared to come and tell you if they're being bullied. Same way, if you are asked to not use the cell phone, how do you manage that? Like, I love the cell phone zone idea. That's in life, right? There's a smoking zone and a non-smoking zone. You can do this in this area, you cannot do it in that area. Traffic rules, all of that is life. So teaching them that certain places, so life is outside of school is very similar to life inside school. So the more we can emulate the environment for them, and let them turn around those messages in a way that kind of like with that message I saw that you noticed in my testimonial from the teenager, I didn't intend for them to take this to that level. I simply taught them a way to self-care and bust stress. Instead, that child decided that they could use it to turn around any feelings they might have had. So we never know what messages that might come across to students, which will then allow them to persist and remain resilient and not give up. And so if we can just make ourselves be very, very I like the word stream of consciousness within the boundaries of too much information, but really I dealt with it this way, and let me teach you how. And that allows students to feel like it's possible to get around some of these sort of loopholes or these mountains that all of us seem to have to traverse, but feel alone in doing so.
Thank you. January.
Well, we all know how technology has reshaped our adolescents and its impact not only just on their self-image, but as well as substance use. So I think it's important that we offer solutions for how we can empower our teens as they face those decisions about what they will and will not be influenced by. I think that's really vital and important, as well as equipping them with strategies. I think that's a vital piece, equipping them with strategies, as well as the parents and the staff, on how we can encourage our teens to have healthy decision making and how we can support them within their mental health. Making sure mental health is not a stigma, it's not taboo, just talking about it, having an open door policy with our campus teachers as well as our counselors and administrators. Setting manageable limits, I think, is also important, making sure that kids know boundaries, and also that they learn how to create boundaries for themselves with their peers, so they won't be influenced by what technology offers, because we know that we can't control everything there's parameters on social media, but we know that we can't. As soon as we learn what they're into, then it changes and they're into something else. So I think it's important that we, give them the intrinsic skill sets to make good decisions, and to, of course, work with parents to create healthy home environments. I think all of those things are very important in contributing to students with their stress management and their mental health.
Perfect. Yeah, I agree. So speaking of parents and school administrators, see what you think, January, of their knowledge levels. Do parents understand the issues around mental health that their kids are facing? And then on the school side, do school administrators, are they understanding how important this issue is, and how are they reacting to this?
Well, I think everybody looks at things, in particular parents, they look at things from their lens as it relates to their role is to protect their child. The administrator's role is to protect the school. So they're looking at the global, the big picture, thousands, hundreds of kids. And so making sure we work in conjunction with the parents to reassure the parents that they know that as the campus and the school entity, we're here to support you. We're here to protect your child, but we're looking to protect all kids. And so I'm on our district's threat assessment team. And so oftentimes you have situations where a child will make a statement, where a district threat assessment or a campus threat assessment has to be done, and then it's brought to the district. And so parents are always like, well, my child really didn't mean that. Well, yeah, we understand that that's your perspective and your lens for your child, but if you're a school administrator, you're trying to look at what's best for the entire school. And so we have to make sure there's systems and safety guards that are in place, and we have to look at what's best holistically, and having those crucial conversations. I think that's important, whether you're dealing with a kid that's self-harming, different crises that take place on a school campus daily. I think it's important to remind families and remind parents that we're not here to work against you. We need to work in conjunction with you to make sure not only your child is safe, but what's best is, what's being done best for the entire school and all students. And so I think it's important to remind them of that and just to reiterate that, the school and the parents working together is going to bring a better outcome than us working in isolation or against each other. Reminding them that we're all on the same team, and that's to see their child succeed as well as other children succeed.
That seems to be very challenging these days.
It can be,
Yeah.
but I think it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it's important that as leaders in our districts and our campuses, it's important that we build those relationships. You don't want to call parents just to complain or to report something negatively about a child, but it's important to set the culture with your campus, to have teachers bring, beginning of the year, have phone calls home to introduce yourselves. The old school way of, everything can't be email. Everything can't be just a text. Sometimes you're going to have to think outside of the box and do a conjunction of all of it, because we all know there are some parents that they don't necessarily pick up the phone when they see the school calling, so they may respond better via text. And so it's okay to, have systems in place to reach the parents wherever they are and however they're going to be, it's going to be most effective. And I think it's important to use all of those things. Social media is a great thing. The internet is a great thing. Like anything, it can be used negatively or positively. And I think it's important to set the culture up that it is used positively, to reach out to parents for newsletter, communication with the schools. I think it's easy to do it that way, but sometimes you're going to have to pick up the phone and have a crucial conversation with a parent for dicey situations.
Yeah, totally agree. Dr. M, do you have any insights you'd like to share?
I think that what we forget is that we are all protective factors. We can be part of the environment where everybody can protect the student that we are serving, or who we are a parent of, or we are a guardian of. We can be the protective factor between them and the risk behaviors that we're trying to prevent. To that end, though, I think that's why I shared that article earlier, is I give tips for how parents can talk to their students at home. That is better than how is school today. So we can have conversations about, what problems did you face at school today, and how did you overcome it? So that kind of reminding students every day of their success. I love January's point of calling in the morning, not with just a problem or a complaint, but to thank them for trusting their child with us, and that we want to continue to increase the protective factors around them in various ways. And this is a conversation to help with that. And it is not about just thinking that your child is a problem to be solved. So I like the idea of really just reminding parents that although they see their one student's journey, they are probably best positioned to keep us from worsening a crisis that their child is going through, because once in the group, it's kind of lost. So our parents can be our eyes and ears on the ground, so to speak. They can check in with us. I love the idea of doing something similar to what Stephanie was talking about earlier, but having those kinds of support groups for parents. So maybe we can have a parents committee that comes across to us, who other parents feel comfortable enough to report to, and then that parent committee comes and tells us, hey, they told us that Johnny was having this kind of conversation. He said that he's being bullied. That kind of thing could be very helpful for in a confidential way, so that parents can share information with us. But a parent may not want to be able to, they may feel guilty, they may feel defensive and not want to come and tell the school directly. But if we created a network around them of other parents who are in the school district they can trust to be their ambassadors, maybe we can build layers of protective factors around the individual parent, the individual family, and then above. What is lovely was the other day I was at a health fair, and these little families came by. I did 5-minute, what I call de-stress and self-care pit stops. Had a 4-year-old teach his mother to breathe. It was delightful. So we can do family pit stops where we teach all the parents to self-care as a family. We can have those events where let's teach them, like Stephanie was talking about yoga, but we can open up some of those events for parents as well. So we can tell them that we take your mental health and improvement and betterment as much into account and factor as we do for your students. So every time there is a response to a crisis, let's include the parents in that response. Let's make sure that we include the individuals who are going to be the person that the child goes to at the end of the day, so that what we implement in school continues to be implemented at home, whatever that might be, whatever policies we put in place. So, because it is just as important to inform parents of the changes in law, for example, right? The same way as we do any other thing. So if school rules change, let's keep them informed. Let's do like she said, not just emails, but do as much as possible things like open houses, but not just do them once a year, but do them like every 6 months or every 4 months or that kind of thing. Or use those. I still love those. I know we think that it's only for elementary, but show the parents what their children are achieving. Sometimes parents don't catch it because it just doesn't happen, but the child may not even know that they have something to brag about, and they don't brag about it to their parents, but teachers have noticed, and we can then build that kind of environment for parents to feel like, okay, my child is being observed, and they can be, they can be somebody I can be proud of, and not just somebody to be worried about when we send them to school every day.
Thank you. Stephanie, do you have any comments?
Yes. So I think parents and administrators, they want to understand like the mental health that's going on, but I also think that sometimes like you don't know what you don't know. And especially because with parents and administrators, like every student is different. Every parent is different. Every administrator is different. And so I do think that a big part of it, and both of the ladies touched on this already, is it's really about it's about having the communication, but it's also about understanding the other person's perspective. Because like I think January said earlier, everybody sees things through the lens that they see them through. And I definitely agree 100% with that. But it's also that understanding and like, okay, this is what they're feeling, this is what they're experiencing. And so how can I support them with that? But then how can I also help them see from my perspective what is going on? I think that communication is key in all areas. And I will say, even at our district, sometimes, everything comes out via Class Dojo, Remind, social media. And really, when the parents are getting the phone call, and right now when we were talking about it, I was like, oof, I fall into this category, and I need to remember, like, I need to not only be the person that they talk to when things are not going well. I need to be the person when things are going great. And I think we also need to highlight those great things and remember that for every student, that looks different. For some student, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited that little Johnny was there Monday through Thursday, when maybe he's only there twice a week. But then also highlighting the parents who are maybe starting to come to more events, maybe starting to be there, like it was great seeing you, and acknowledging that and making them feel like they're wanted and they're known. Because we focus a lot on the teacher mental health, on the student mental health, but it's also the parents. And sometimes parents, they are trying the best that they can. I'm a parent, I'm trying the best that I can, and I'm not always getting it right. And so I think that it's important that we kind of acknowledge, but also communicate what these systems in place look like. So when parents are getting called or when they're seeing things are happening, they kind of have this pre-knowledge, because they're not in the education world. It's kind of like when I go to the doctor and they use all this medical terms, I'm like, okay, now what does that mean? And sometimes that's what parents feel when they come to the schools. They're not always like, what is their IEP? What is their BIP? What is this? And for us, it's like everyday lingo. And we just need to be able to have clear, concise messages, positive and negative, but more so the positive, because that's really what's going to build up those students and those parents and those families to want to communicate and engage with us. And kind of it's going to help us. We all work together, and both ladies said this, like, we're a team, like we have to do that. We can't do this without each other.
Absolutely. We use a lot of acronyms here in education, right? That nobody knows what they are unless you're in this field. So I do think it's important to break things down to the parents in a very simplistic way.
I agree. Well, I'm going to segue. I appreciate all of the information you have shared, and we've had a couple of comments in the chat that this has been informative. And I'm going to share, because we've just finished talking about parents, Action for Healthy Kids has spent, since last December, we worked with the CDC on something that's called Confident Connections. Anais Murphy is our youth mental health and social emotional learning manager, and she worked with the CDC, and we met with parents. We did surveys with parents. We held focus groups. We had a parent advisory group to talk specifically about mental health. So what we have done is found a lot of the questions that parents had and identified ways to help them support themselves and help schools support them. So after interviewing 2,000 parents, surveying 2,000 parents, doing focus groups, the parent advisory board was consisted of parents who had challenges, mental health challenges with their children. So they were all had been in the system and had identified things that were a struggle for them. And so then they informed what we developed eventually as the resources called Confident Connections. Some of the main takeaways from the parent feedback were a lot of concern about their children's mental health. 60% were worried that their children were not talking to them about mental health, not comfortable to say, I'm being challenged or I'm struggling. 50% of parents worried that their children weren't getting together with a friend or in person and doing way too much on their cell phone. 85% wanted to see a mental health professional at their children's schools. So it seems that from what we gathered from these data collection methods is a lot of focus from parents on the fact that there are challenges to children's mental health. The advisory committee, the advisory board, kind of guided where we should focus and where the main challenges were, addressing racism, just basic mental health information, what roles the school staff are playing and can play, how to advocate for your child at school in an effective way, not necessarily confrontational, conflict resolution, where to find help. A lot of parents, even if they know their child has challenges, don't know where to go or what's that first step. So after identifying these issues, we asked them what type of resources would be most useful. So we've developed different games, different ways to get conversations started with your children. And there's a website that you can visit called confidentconnections.org. And these are all these resources were structured for schools to be able to share back with parents. So if you have parents that you feel need help on certain specific topics, you can go to this website and identify the right ones that you could share back with your parents. So anyway, just wanted to share this resource with the group. I hope that you have an opportunity to check it out. And then if you have questions, you can reach out to Anais. She is happy to answer any questions or guide you in a direction if you don't see something that you think is important. So anyway, I'm hoping that will be useful. So does anybody have any additional comments? I guess there was one more quick question. If your SHAC has been involved, I know SHACs were mentioned once as being supportive around mental health. If you have examples of how your SHAC has supported mental health in your district, or you feel they could support mental health, love to hear that since we have 5 more minutes.
To speak on that, I'm actually on our School Health Advisory Council, which is SHAC. Have been for the last 24 years. And so I think that it's really important, in different school districts, I participated with SHAC committees, and I think it's important because it sets the tone, of what's being rolled out for the district. I've implemented things such as Abstinence Plus in a former school district I was in, where it was a program that talked about healthy choices, saying for those that believe you do say no to premarital sex, then that was part of the curriculum. But also for those that if kids are going to engage, what are the safety measures? What are, abstinence plus? The plus was everything that in addition to. So that was something that was implemented in for my former school district through the health department. And it went through the SHAC committee, and it was implemented through seventh grade PE. And so and then it further expanded. It had videos and different things that it related to on a student level. Additionally, outside of that, currently I worked with the SHAC committee in Spring Branch and rolling out Screenagers. It's a program that works. It's a great about vaping and substance abuse, and how social media is impacting that, what our kids are being exposed to, and just healthy decision making. And it's a 50-minute film that's being implemented at our campuses on the secondary level. But then it's also a parent component that parents are able to watch in conjunction with what the students are watching, so that they can have those conversations, continue those conversations at home. So I think it's really important that SHAC is required by the state. However, I think they're really important because they can set the tone and the pace of what's being rolled out at your campuses.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Stephanie.
Oh, we do, I am also on the SHAC committee, and when we meet, we try to we definitely want to address, and we try to address mental health in each of those meetings, and kind of seeing like how that mental wellness portion takes place. But then also, because we have different members, of course, from like the elementaries and the secondaries, making sure that the parents feel that it's something that they either agree with or something that they support and they see as an issue with their own children in their own homes. And then, of course, at times we'll invite our students to come and join us in that meeting if they're able to attend. So that way we can also get input, because what parents see, what students see, and what we see can sometimes not relate. And so we're definitely, it's something we're working on. We're definitely getting a lot of help from It's Time Texas to help us with that. But it's something we're working on because we know we want to kind of do a better job at helping make sure that mental health and wellness is included in these SHAC committee decisions.
Awesome.
So I worked with Alice just recently on a concept and idea of getting a subcommittee for mental health below the larger SHAC. So if anybody wants guidance on that, I can help you with a training, perhaps, to get you to think of who could be effective members. Oh, I think Courtney asked that question. How do you suggest getting this group going on a campus? That's a question I can help answer if you would like to go ahead and include me as a resource on that. Another idea is for us to start curating. The SHAC could do this without needing to establish a mental health committee, but to really start curating resources that are within the community that address mental health. And I can help guide that. If not anything else, at least a parent can walk away with knowing there's someone I can talk to outside of school, or there's, for example, a little bit more information on school mental health resources that are available now, like TChat, for example, which is used here in College Station ISD, which allows a student to call in and have a conversation about their mental health with the counselor. So getting parents to recognize what is already available, both in the school and outside the school, could be a SHAC committee responsibility, because I think I've identified there's at least 3 or 8 out of the 10 components, there's at least 3 to 6 that address indirectly or directly social and emotional well-being. So there's ways in which we can incorporate our everyday activities, but then nuance it to bend towards mental health.
There was a quick question. How do you suggest getting this group going on a campus? What steps would you take to get a group formed?
always important to have good clubs and organizations on campus. And that's something that you can speak to your campus administrator about, your building principal, to see what their goals and plans are surrounding mental health. And it's always important to incorporate students to get do interest surveys as well as needs assessment to see what the needs are of your campus and to go from there. But always you want to start with your building principal.
Well, I think we're at time. So I think this has been wonderful. I appreciate everyone's insights and perspectives. I think there's a lot of good information shared this morning. If you have additional questions, you can drop them in the chat and our presenters can potentially answer via chat, or we can also reach out after this session and after to ask these wonderful ladies to share their knowledge and expertise. And Alice, I see you're on and ready to start our next session.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I would just want to echo Michelle's comments. Thank you. This was another wonderful panel. We appreciated all of your insights, strategies, and resources you shared. And Michelle, thank you for also sharing some of the newest work that the National Action for Healthy Kids group has been doing in relation to this very important area, and for moderating this session. What I am going to do, we have, I show 10:01. We're going to start our next group in about 4 minutes or so. So I am going to encourage everybody to stand up, take a break real quick, just quick stand, stretch, grab some water, and we will be right back just shortly. We'll ensure that all of our next panel of presenters are on. So just everybody take a quick walk.
Yay, Jackie, there you are.
Sorry, I was dismissing my last class. I thought you told me 10:05.
No, Jackie, she did. It is 10:05. It is 10:05. We're just giving everybody a quick little stand-up break. You know how
Perfect.
important those are.
Perfect. Yes, it definitely is.
We need a brain boost.
Yes, we do.
Greetings, Dr. Torres. It's exciting to see you this morning. And hi, Felicia. It's good to see you.
Hi, Michelle. It's good to see you too as well.
I'm excited about this next group. These are all wonderful experts in physical education and physical activity. So
Great. Looking forward to it.
Well, welcome back, everyone. I hope everybody got a drink of some water or a cup of coffee if you're still getting moving this morning. We are about to kick off our next session that we have this morning. And I want to go ahead and introduce our moderator. we have Miss Francino Hollingsworth, who is going to be moderating our next session, which is all focused on physical education and physical activity and really the whole child and how that's how everything we do is really centered around the whole child. And she's being joined by an amazing panelist today, Dr. Nancy Torres from Canutillo ISD, and then Coach Caver from Pasadena, who is another one of our favorite Action for Healthy Kids supporters, champions. We just love Coach Caver also. So I am going to turn things over to Francina.
Thank you. Thank you for that warm welcome. Good morning. I'm Francina Hollingsworth. I am the new Assistant Director for Physical Education and Coordinated School Health in Austin ISD. And so I just want to thank you for being here with us today. And I would like to share some information about the work we do here in Austin related to physical activity and physical education. We have a very strong district written curriculum. We also provide instructional support through campus visits for all of our K through 12 campuses. Oh, and we also actively promote Marathon Kids. During my time in Houston ISD, I also help promote Breathe for Change, which provides educators with certifications in SEL, mental mindfulness, and yoga. And so with these initiatives, we aim to foster support for students, staff, and parents dealing with mental health, and also making sure that we incorporate physical activity into our schools and using yoga as a means for that. I'm not sure if you guys could see me, but I'll continue talking. um, also, I serve on the Physical Activity Council for Shape America, where we have worked on several position papers to promote physical activity. Especially, we focused on advocating for not using physical activity as punishment, and we also promoting before and after school physical activity. So let's take a moment to appreciate Dr. Torres and Jackie's work in their school districts. I'm eager to hear the impactful projects they have been involved in. And so we'll start with Dr. Torres. If you could introduce yourself and share with us the work you're doing in your district.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm in El Paso, Texas, Canutillo, Texas. So we're an hour behind you all. So it just threw me off yesterday with our sessions and today and everything. But I am so happy to be here with you guys today. I'm Dr. Nancy Torres. I am the coordinated school health facilitator for our district. We have 10 campuses, 6 elementaries, 2 middle schools, a high school, and an early college high school. I am in charge of coordinated school health teams at each campus. I'm in charge of wellness coordinators at each campus. I'm in charge of physical education and health education, curriculum and support, parenting programs and interventions relating to health, after school and enrichment programs for our students, and then collaborative work being the whole child approach with nurses, counselors, social workers, administration, finance, coaches, everybody that's involved. We also have a rec room in my facility that I'm in charge of. I have several gardens around our district as well. I support a lot of the LGBT campuses, groups. I also enjoy writing grants, so I have fun with that aspect and bringing in money to our campuses. a lot of community support resources as well, working very close with my social workers for food pantries, closets, shoes, school supplies, all that. I also do policy work, our wellness policy, our recess policy, a lot of community involvement and collaboration with community agencies through usually through my shack. So I'm in charge of shack as well, and then trainings for our districts on anything that is related to overall health. So I'm very happy to be here with you guys today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You are very busy. And so I might be reaching out to you about that grant work, because anybody that's excited to write grants, we definitely need to tap into them. So Coach Caver, can you share with us the work you're doing on your campus or district?
Absolutely. So, like you said, my name is Coach Jackie Caver. I'm at Turner Elementary in Pasadena ISD. This is my 13th year teaching, but I was the PE aide for 5 years prior to that. So this is technically my 18th year at this school in the PE department. It has been an absolute pleasure and my life's work to continue the program that was built here before I got here. When I was an aide, the PE teacher at the time was fabulous. And it was my goal to continue her program and then build on it. And I do believe I have done that. Like Dr. Nancy, I also am the queen of grant writing. I think in the last 12 years, somebody asked me to add it all up last year, and it's close to $120,000 that I have written for our school, not just for the PE department. I kind of like to write grants for everything school related. I've written some gardening grants. I've written kinesthetic learning grants. I've written playground grants. I've written the outside area playground movement spots. I've written grants for our track, which we now have a track for 9 years, which is something we use every single day. So I like to write a grant for anything that I think that will benefit our school, and that income, is more than just the PE department. I really have focused the last probably 4 or 5 years on the kinesthetic learning in the classroom, and I've used Sandy Bristow and the Oliver Foundation and written grade level grants for standing desks, bike desks, wobble stools, fidget items, rubber bands, anything that the kids can quietly move with but still learn. And I'm proud to say that kinder through 4th grade now, they all have movement equipment in their classroom. So they are able to accommodate students that just cannot sit still. I've been a huge advocate for brain breaks. I am weekly sending my teachers new ideas that I find, new YouTube videos that I see, to share with them new ideas so that they can continue those power hours. They call those power hours at my school, where at least once per hour they do a movement break. But most teachers find it more beneficial, like every 20 minutes. So I always like to brag on those. I've been a huge advocate for family involvement. I try to get families out to the school as often as I can. I do a Bring a Family to PE week. I have decided to do that more than just during that week this year. I'm going to do it once per quarter to get those families out. They really enjoyed it. I do a monthly Monday Mile Meet where the families come out onto our beautiful track and they have barcodes to track their miles. And they're competing for a trophy at the end of the year for the family who has the most miles. I'm also a huge advocate for before and after school programs. I do a running club for my 3rd and 4th graders Monday through Friday every morning, where they come out onto the track and they get their wiggles out. And the students that are on meds, this helps their meds kick in quicker. I see them walk in the door, bouncing off the walls, and by the time they've been on the track for 20 minutes, they are ready to go to class and work. I'm also really involved in our recess program, making sure that our recess got put on the master schedule and that our administration is enforcing that, requiring our classes to go out. Our district has been huge in making that happen for our district. Our school sticks to it, and the teachers have noticed a difference. And then I have to give a shout out to our PISD administrators, Amber McNeish and Elise Neff. They are fantastic. And I know that I'm really blessed to have great administrators because I know that is not the norm. And they are constantly working to help us as PE teachers justify our jobs. And that is really important, especially right now with all the budget cuts. Us justifying our jobs is going to help us keep PE in schools. So I'm really fortunate to be in PISD. I love my job. I love my work. And I am every year looking for something new to try and something new to do.
Yes, you do have wonderful administrators, and everyone hand should be hurting with all the information you just shared. Thank you for sharing that. And I know I noted several things and I was like, oh, that is such a great idea. And so thank you, Coach Caver. I'm going to go ahead and start the questions. And Coach Caver, since you're on screen, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
What advice would you give other districts or school staff on ensuring physical education and physical activity are not displaced for academic emphasis?
So I have had to get on a stool and, to get eye level with my administrators at my school to not literally because I'm a very tall woman, but I really had to stand up for my program in several instances, especially since we have a new administrator now. My old principal, she valued PE, she recognized PE as a valuable tool, and she kind of left me alone. She let me do my thing. This new principal kind of didn't really understand that yet. And now that we're on year 3 together, I think she finally gets it. And she has kind of let me do my thing again. But I have had to stand up and say, hey, this is my learning environment. Just an example, I got an email her first year at our school. This was 3 years ago. She said, Coach Caver, we're going to be using your gym from 1:30 to 2:30 for our chocolate school-wide fundraiser. That was it. I replied back and I said, Ms. Katz, that is during 4th grade. We are doing fitness testing that week. That is a state mandated thing. I can't just give up my classroom. And then I continued to tell her, I'm kind of offended that you would just tell me that you're going to use my classroom when I know you wouldn't do that to a classroom teacher. So she replied back to me and said, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that was what I was doing. How can we, make place for this chocolate fundraiser? So I replied back to her and I said, let's do it during my conference period. I'm more than happy to let them use the gym during my conference period. And then that way it won't interfere with my classroom time. And she said, okay, that's a great idea. So that was just kind of the beginning of it. So I would say to other districts, stand up for your program. Don't just say, oh, okay, we'll do fitness testing on another day. She can have the gym for her chocolate fundraiser. Stand up for your program. Stand up for your classroom. And I have, in the last 3 years, gotten her to realize that I do more than just play games. This is a learning environment. We have skills, we have TEKS, we have grade level outcomes, we have assessments, we have all of those things just like the classroom teachers. Music has the same, PE has the same, we have an art class that has the same. We all have expectations and things that we have to achieve. And when they use our classrooms for other school-wide things because of the space that they have, they're taking away from the learning. They're taking away from what's being taught in the gym. So I would say stand up for your area, stand up for your gym, stand up for your classroom, stand up for what it is that you're teaching, and then prove to them that your classroom is a valuable classroom. So I've invited her several times to come into the gym to show her that this is what we do in our gym. I'm just going to hang up on that. This is what we do in the gym. For example, last week we played a game called Star Wars Tag. And Star Wars Tag is a very popular game. It has 2 pieces to it. So I went to my 4th graders and I said, look, we've got the Stormtroopers, we've got Luke and Leia. We need to add some more Star Wars people. You guys go home, come up with a plan. I need a character and I need how I'm going to use that character in this tagging game. Oh my goodness. I got diagrams, I got essays, I got pictures. They brought me back so much stuff. Now we have a Darth Vader, we have a Yoda, we have a C-3PO, we have R2-D2, we have a Darth Maul, we have Obi-Wan Kenobi. We have so many pieces to that tagging game, and it became a really full embodied game. And I asked my administrators to come down and watch that. And she sat there and she watched and she goes, oh my goodness, because we had all of the game pieces on anchor charts. Because when the kids brought me that information, we put it on these anchor charts and how we were going to use it in the game so that during the game, because there were so many pieces, they could constantly go back and review what is it that Obi-Wan gets to do? Who can he tag? Who can he untag? What is his role? And so she was really amazed that all of those pieces came from a very simple tagging game. And I think that at that moment she realized, okay, I'm gonna leave Coach Caver alone. She's got this. I'm gonna work things around her schedule so that I'm not interrupting this valuable playing and learning time.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you had that conversation and letting your administration know about the outcomes, the objectives, and all the things that we have to accomplish, just like the classroom teacher, because I think some administrators forget. So thank you for that. And so people that are writing, take note of that, promote your program, but also remind your administrators that we have state mandated things that we have to accomplish as well.
Yes.
So Dr. Torres, the same question, and let me know if I need to repeat the question for you.
Okay, I think I got it.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
I've been 24 years in education. I've taught at elementary physical education level, and I also taught at the university level. So I really understand the importance of getting that word out and sharing a lot of the research behind stuff to our leadership. And so luckily I am at district level, and I get to really interact a lot with our superintendent. I interact a lot with our board of trustees. I was at the meeting yesterday sharing our SHAC report, a lot of smiles from them, a lot of thanks for everything that we've done for child health, and the whole child approach. And so I think, it's really just sharing all of the stuff, making them aware of all of the things that come up within physical education, health education. I like to highlight my teachers, everything that they're doing, exactly like what Coach Carver's doing right now. It's amazing, all this stuff. And I think they don't understand that. I don't think they go out enough to see it. We invite a lot of the principals to go out, exactly like Coach has been doing, to let them know. And then I also highlight, they start cutting PE and they start saying, hey, we're doing 4 days a week now, because we need to put music in there. And so we don't want the arts to go away. And so I start highlighting this campus that said, no, we're staying at 5. And so I highlight that campus, and then the parents start going, well, like, hey, wait, if she can do it at Reyes Elementary, why can't my kid do it at Damian Elementary, or, another one? And so highlighting those things, or highlighting what middle school is doing, giving them all of the props that what they're doing. And because really it's about what these practitioners are doing and highlighting all of that. And so you got to share that, get into leadership meetings, get into, powwows with the board, just going to the school board presentation and, hi, how are you? I'm so-and-so, this is what I do. I also go out to quite a bit of parent teacher nights. I interact a lot with our parent liaisons. We actually have a PLC today with them. And so it's talking to them about everything that we can offer, free of charge. Half the time it's free of charge. Michelle just talked about the Confident Connections, and we were like, hey, free program, free resources, bring them my way. I passed them out to our parent liaisons. They're super happy about all that. And then it gets to the parents. And so a lot of times I do tell my people that are all under me, all my different programs, is, I can fight that fight for you guys at district level. And so you just do what you do and make that magic happen, make those kids enjoy physical activity, and it looks easier than it really is. I know I was a PE teacher, and, you always had to be on a super high all the time, because if you weren't, the kids were like, well, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you doing push-ups with us today? What happened? You did them with the 5th graders. Why aren't you doing them with us? And so tying that in, I think also getting out things like articles. We're Red Ribbon Week. I got that out to my campuses. There was a great article talking about how exercise actually cuts back drugs and alcohol. There was a study. And so I was like, oh my God, perfect timing. Let's send this out. Let's have them interact, give that brief health lesson to the students, have them take it home, post it on our website, everything so they can have. And then I just kind of wanted to, off of Coach, also, I love that you bring that creativity and embrace that creativity to those kids, because it really brings the ownership to the kids and their programs and the teachers, so that's mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Torres. Now, one of the things kids don't realize, as we age, we can't handle doing push-ups all all of our class periods. They don't understand that. They want to make sure we're doing it with them. So thank you for all of that that you shared with us. The
Right.
next
Even, you know
question.
what? Real funny. It's
Yeah.
a funny thing. Real funny. Even just tying their shoes. I remember being young and being able to tie all the shoes, and I'd be like, I'm tying them. And the other coaches are like, you're nuts. And then I started learning, like, oh God, we can't do that after a while. So I just say, like, who knows how to tie shoes? You guys come and help this guy over here. So
Yes,
yeah.
we make adjustments. Exactly. Next question, how effective is your shack and how do you involve the community and parents?
Well, I can go first. So our district does have a very active shack. Really on the PE end of it, we just support our district. We put up the postings, we share the dates with our families. Our district has come to us and said, hey, we need a couple more people, do you have somebody that's great that you could recommend? Or do you have some parents that look like they're really involved? Can you send them our way? So really, that's the only part that I do on my end with the district shack, is to support letting the parents know when the meetings are, putting that information out there. We post it in our front office. I post it on our Turner PE Facebook page, and then our administrators put it on their school webpage, just getting the word out. And then sometimes referring a couple of parents that we feel like are really involved and sending them their way so that they can use those parents. But really, that's really the only part that we see on our end with the shack.
Thank you, Coach Jackie. Dr. Torres, same question.
Okay. So I'm actually the district person involved with Shack. So I am the one that has to kind of work with our parents during that time, recruit the chairs to be part of our program, recruit our executive committee, all of that stuff. And so I'm very happy with our Shack. Action for Healthy Kids has helped quite a bit to support. It's like sometimes you get people that want to help and sometimes you don't. We actually have changed into 2 committees. One is our Health and Wellness Committee, and that one deals with all health, all wellness, all the health education, human sexuality is in that one. And then we actually, and I was excited to hear about the mental health presentation right before, because it gave me a resource, because we just created a bullying and mental health committee last year. So our parents felt very strong about that. We received a Stronger Connections grant, and we thought, hey, a mental health committee within Shack would be a great addition. And so we're really happy with that. We do have representatives in our Shack from each campus. They are required to put a bulletin board together. So today when I see my parent liaisons, I ask them like, hey, who put them up? Send me pictures, and then they start again, like a little competition. We're humans, right? We love that competition. So it's like, oh God, I'm going to go back and I'm going to make a better bulletin board and I'm going to highlight more. So we try to get those parents involved, but we do find that a lot of our parents say, we trust our health teachers, which is a great thing. Like, I don't need to go to that meeting. you guys, I don't go to the math meeting. I don't go to the science meeting. They don't make us do that, and learn about what you're learning because we need to know. And so that's a big plus right now with us is that they're very supportive, the parents. We've got a new textbook in Texas, which is great because that was long time coming. We were piecemealing everything together for health. And then just keeping up our handbook, so that parents know what's out there and how they can actually connect all of this. And then tell them, how important it is to know what they need at home. I think you mentioned that earlier. And that's so important. We need to know what they need with their children at home and bringing it to us. So I think our shack is very involved, and we appreciate Action for Healthy Kids for all of that support.
Thank you. Yes, a lot of districts they struggle with getting community or parents involved on the shack. And so it's also finding creative ways to get parents involved. And sometimes parents or community people might have to check off both boxes. If you get them in and they're a parent and a community person, check, check, okay. But it's also possibly reaching out to PTA, PPO, I think it might be called, and getting parents, inviting them to come out. I know other school districts, they do a rotating meeting where they go to various campuses and ask the parents from that neighborhood to come to the meetings. So, in this virtual world is sending out, having a hybrid if you're doing face-to-face meetings and sending out the link and inviting parents to come to the meetings and where they could just chime in virtually. So, it's a big struggle, but it's looking at creative ways to bring community and parents in. For the next question, Dr. Torres, I'm going to go with you first. What types of activities or events do you have to help show parents your PE programs?
So all my campuses are a little bit different. So it's kind of, what they like to showcase. A lot of them will do, I started teaching in 2000. I worked at Glen Cove Elementary with Ben Avalos, and he was just absolutely amazing. He had written an article way back when, in the 1900s, right? Late 1900s. That's when he wrote his article. And it was on Wellness Wednesday. And that's when Wellness Wednesday started kind of hitting, where they would come up and we would start inviting parents. And it was amazing to kind of have him, and PE is one of those things, we steal ideas from everyone. It's usually not our idea, but it's getting it out there. And so, they have days like that, family fun days where they get to come in, family fun nights. We've written grants for tennis play days, tennis lines to be painted, tennis equipment to be given to us with our Greater El Paso Tennis Association. We were actually a club. They gave us the club of the district or the region. We were super excited because they're like, well, they're kind of not a club, but they are. And so they were thinking, the big country clubs and all that. And so they gave it to us as a school district. And we were super excited to hear that, because you got to have them connecting. And so we try to connect our athletes with our younger students, and do play days like that. We're still thinking about PE demonstration days in our district. I used to do it when I taught. It's just, there's so many things that are on my plate, but I think that's a great way to do it, is do a PE demonstration, kind of like the when the choir sings, it's the same thing, just a PE way. So I think connecting and showing off what you do. I also I use Canva. I'm using Canva a lot more, and we get to do board reports. to our board, and we do Thursday packets for them. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to highlight, our catch champions. And so I'm highlighting that next week with them. I'm going to do one for my physical education teachers. Like, what do they do? What do they, everything. And so I think those are ways that we need to get physical education out there. And then getting the teachers on board. When I worked at the university, I taught a class called P for Classroom Teachers. And I instilled in that class, you don't need something else on your plate. Let our experts teach PE. Let them do it. You're going to bring in physical activity. You're going to bring in those energizers. That's what you're here for. But you don't want another 45 minutes of teaching, PE. Just like you don't want me going in and teaching reading. Could you imagine if you put me into teaching reading? No, there's no way I could do that. So it's, helping each other and saying, hey, during these 45 minutes of your conference time, I will take care of them at PE. I will get them tired. I will get them sweaty. I will get them hot, and I will get them ready to learn when they go back to you. Thank you.
All right. So on my,
Thank you. Oh, okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
You're on mute.
there we go. There we go. Did you want to say
Yeah.
something before I jumped in?
Yes, I was just going to say real quick, Dr. Torres, we don't steal, we borrow and collaborate,
True.
but also steal. But
all
we're
in the
very, a very collaborative group of educators. So when someone posts it, that means they want other people to use it.
Yes. It's amazing because I feel like classroom teachers are always against each other. Like who makes higher scores? And I was like, that's not how PE works. I need scarves. I'm going to ask, and somebody's going to lend me scarves. I'm going to give them the hockey sticks. It's all of that. So yes.
Yes, exactly. We're very caring of each other.
Yes. I have a parent that's a self-help parent. He does a lot of motivational speeches, and he approached me one evening at a parent event, and he said, Coach Caver, I need to have a talk with you. And I said, yeah, sure, go ahead. He says, have you ever thought about putting a patent on all the games that you do? And I looked at him and I said, why? And he was like, you could make a ton of money. I said, that's not why I'm a PE teacher. I'm a PE teacher to share and collaborate and share everything that I learn. That's my biggest joy, is helping other PE teachers find good things that work for them. But anyhow, on that note, I totally agree with Dr. Torres. As far as getting your stuff out there, you have to advertise what it is that you do. I have a very active Turner PE Facebook page. I created my Facebook page back in the day when you could create a page that was private. Now the pages that you create, you have to like, and then you see everything. And I don't like that, because I feel like I'm putting kids' pictures out there and I'm not sure who's seeing these kids' pictures. So my page is very private. Only my friends can see my postings, not even friends of friends. They cannot share posts. And so I feel very confident sharing daily. I put videos of what kinder's learning. I put videos of things kids have accomplished. I share pictures of mileage awards, like toe tokens and medals and things. My parents look to Facebook every day and find something that we've done that day. I've actually had parents reach out to me and say, are you sick? Are you okay? Because I forgot to post something that day. So they keep me on track too. We do a Bring Your Parent to PE. I feel like that really showcases what we do, because I don't do anything different. They walk in the door, we do our jogging, we do our stretching, we do learning about the skill, we do the skill, and then we cool down, we reflect, and we walk out the door. And when the parents came to bring my parent to PE, they were like, oh my gosh, you work us. And I did not let them stand at the walls. I said, hey, y'all come in. Y'all are here to do PE. We're not, wallflowers. I think that really advocates what we do, because they realize now when their kids come home and say, oh my gosh, my arms are hurting. Well, what'd you do in PE today? We worked on push-ups. Well, there you go. Using muscles you've not used before. I also send home a monthly newsletter, and my newsletter includes what our health theme is for the month, what we're focusing on in our social emotional learning, what our nutrition or our healthy messages for the month, so that parents are aware what their kids are learning. And then I also share my calendar of different events that are coming up or different skills that we're working on. I participate in any kind of recognition that I can get my hands on, like our district does Excellence and Wellness Award. I always try to reach that platinum level to showcase what our school is doing. I've been doing America's Healthiest Schools. We're going this weekend for their Leader Summit. This will be my 6th year to be America's Healthiest School. So just showcasing, getting recognized, getting awarded for the things that our school does. And those, by the way, are not PE awards. Those are whole child awards. So your whole school has to be a part of those awards. And that shows that we're all sharing what we're learning and we're all working together. I do a quarterly fitness night where my parents can come out and play some of our fun games that the kids love. I do a winter wonderland for our kids. This is like a huge wintry tent that they walk into with lights everywhere and blow ups, and we do winter games. Well, the first thing we do is ice skating on paper plates. So I invite my parents to come out and do ice skating on paper plates that first night of Winter Wonderland. They love that. I invite my teachers to come do PE with us, not to teach PE, but to do it with us. So when I have like my Ninja Warrior course set up or my Halloween drive-through or some fun things where the kids go back and talk about these items, I invite those teachers to come do it with us. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but the kids love seeing their teachers coming and participating. On Veterans Day, I do the Sally Up, Sally Down. And I invite my administrators to come in and do our squats or push-ups or whatever it is we're doing for Sally Up, Sally Down. The kids love that too. So just include your administrators, include your teachers, showcase as much as you can, because the more they see, the more they understand, and the more they want to be a part of it.
Coach Kaver, congratulations on 6 years of being a campus that's nominated or recognized for America's Healthiest School. I know it's a lot of work, and for having it for 6 consecutive years, kudos to you, because that means that your campus, everyone is on board and working together to get this done. And that's excellent. I've looked at the qualifications, and it's no joke. Like, yeah, so kudos to you on that. Now you touched on this already, but are there any other things that you do to share information on physical activity or physical education? I know you mentioned Facebook, and I think you also
Yes.
mentioned a newsletter.
Yes.
Are there any other tools that you use to promote?
Yes. So this year is our first year to use Parent Square. It used to be Remind. I did have all my parents on Remind last year, and I would send out messages of things that were coming up or things that were due, or, fun things that the kids get to do, or reminding them about open gym. So that was a really easy way for me to communicate with them. Parent Square works kind of in a similar way. You can either notify them immediately to their email and cell phone number, or it sends out like everybody that's sending out messages sends it out in the evening time. So it depends on how the parents have it set up. But we do have Parent Square, so we're able to communicate daily if we needed to. I also use that to communicate one-on-one with a parent, or if I have a concern. Obviously, phone calls is also another way that we communicate, but Parent Square is just a way that I can reach out to more than one parent at the same time. And so between those three things, I would say those are the biggest ways that we communicate with our parents.
Thank you. Yes, I know when I was in the classroom, I set up Instagram and Twitter. And so that's how I would promote things. And of course, Remind, but it was more towards the kids, but I had parents to get on there. And during the pandemic, I was very active with Google Voice, texting parents and, getting feedback from them, because I noticed calling wasn't working. So texting worked very well for middle school parents. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Torres to answer the question. Dr. Torres, I know you also mentioned newsletters and putting together a board packet. Are there other things that you do to promote things that happen in your district?
So definitely our Shack report is one that I highlight everything, because I usually announce it to the Shack, and so they know everything that's happening from what our nurses are doing, how many vaccinations they gave out, how many vision free glasses they gave out, what are the services that are social workers working with all of our mental health agencies. So all of that is in our SHAC report. It's getting a little bit less now because now when I first started here 9 years ago, it was just me. So I dealt with the nurses, I dealt with the counselors, and now we have a lead nurse. So I'm so grateful for that. We have a nurse coordinator. So she helps with coordinating all of our nurses. We have a director of social services. A lot of these pushes were from our board. So we had a social worker on our board of trustees. So that's how we got a social worker. We had no social workers in our district. We had one, now we have 3. And so, that's great. The other thing is social media. We hate social media, but we love social media. And, this is a way to kind of push out more. Working really closely with our public information office. So getting out the media, the support from them is one thing. And then our website. So we just transitioned from our website. So it's a little bit, it's not great at all. They deleted half of the stuff. And so, but getting it out that way as well.
So what you're telling us, don't try to look up your website to get
No, it's horrible.
information.
Yes.
So, the last question for both of you guys, and you've mentioned, throughout the your answers, both of you guys kind of mentioned this, but I want to focus on this real quick. But how do you ensure that the district and the board know how vital physical education and physical activity is or are? And Dr. Torres, you could go first.
Okay. So definitely talking to them, and sometimes it's better when you just talk to them on a one-to-one basis. I know a lot of times it's intimidating, and we tell our parents, like, it's okay, they're people too. They're part of the community. They want to know. They do this work for free for us in our board of trustees. And so we need to have that line of communication open with them. We need them to know what we need as a district. Their voices are stronger than my voice. And so I can go up there and say everything that I want. But yesterday, when I had the 2 chairs presenting 2 parents, not connected, not employed by the district, and they were saying what the SHAC does and what we need, it made a bigger impact. And so, I tell parents, like, let's go, let's meet them, let's talk to them, let's see what kind of support we can get from them. And so that's one of the things. We also try to get into a lot of our strategic planning, getting within there. So our leadership, my executive director is absolutely amazing. Dr. Monica Reyes, she's going to be on later, I think soon. But she advocates for us in every aspect. And so you need that leadership. Our superintendent, he'll come and walk around. Yesterday I saw him and I was waving out of my car, and he's waving, and I'm like, you're just waving, you don't even know who it is. And he's like, I knew it was you. Comes running over, gives me a big hug. And so you have to have that camaraderie with them and know that they're humans, they too. But there's also policy. So when you get into policy, that makes things stick. We're finding the recess, we have new administration coming in from different districts, different philosophies, and they come and they change recess, or they get rid of it, or no, we don't want recess before lunch. We don't understand that. Well, let me educate you on it. Look at, here's this, here's that. And so policy is huge to get it within there. And so getting into those, my director of social services helped me put in the recess policy that SHAC was working on. So that's another thing. And then again, highlighting to them what our PE teachers and health teachers do. All of this talk on SEL, and we need to bring this in. And I said, My PE teachers have been doing this forever. What do you think it is? They work on the cognitive, they work on the psychomotor, they work on the affective domains. All of that is there already. The social, emotional stuff. The social is the teamwork, the respect, the leadership. It's there. It's been there forever. The emotional, the stress reduction, the body positivity, the resilience of these kids, all of it is there. And so again, it's just highlighting and talking about what we do to people that don't know what we do. I mean, right now we're preaching to the choir. We all know, and so we just need to show our passion over and over again to people who don't understand it.
Exactly. Thank you. I was in the
you.
elevator with our superintendent a couple of weeks ago, really friendly. And I was like, shoot, this is the time to really have an elevator pitch. And I was like, okay, I'm going to put something in my phone just in case I ever run into him again. I could be like, hey, and da 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 da. And so thank you for those tips. And it is very important to have policy in place because as many of us know, district turnover happens. And like you said, Dr. Torres, people come in, they have a different philosophy, a different view on things. But when you have things in policy already, then it's like, no, this is what's written, this is what we have to go with. And it takes a lot of work to even amend those policies. So thank you for that tip. Coach
Favor.
Haver. Yes, I was gonna say Coach Jackie, and I was like, no,
That's
let me.
okay. I'll take either. I totally
Um,
agree with what Dr. Torres said. We
mhm.
have to definitely get out there and make our voice heard. I invite our board members and our superintendents out to some of the big things that I do at our school. Like we have a veterans ceremony coming up in November where we honor our veterans and we put on a big assembly and all the students are in the gym and we celebrate our veterans that belong to our school. And I always invite board members or superintendents so they can see the things that we do on campus. When I have like Monday Mall Meets, I've had a couple of board members come out signing barcodes as kids were jogging around the track, just inviting them, letting them know they're invited. Even if they can't come, they're still being informed of something that's going on your campus that's worthwhile and worth seeing. So just putting that bug in their ear, seeing that we are active, seeing that we are working, seeing that we are constantly promoting our program and bringing parents out, bringing the community out, getting everybody together. Just that's important to let them know all the different things that we do. And I know there's a lot of schools in our district. So if every PE teacher was doing that, man, imagine the emails coming across their desk, letting them know about all the cool things happening in the PE and the health world. To me, that's really important. Also, being really positive when I talk with them, I think has helped. I'm more of a positive person than a negative. I find it easier to compliment than to complain. So I always make sure that when I see a board member to thank them for not just my job, but for allowing me the freedom to do what I would like to do at my school, allowing me to promote different programs, allowing me to bring parents into the school. So I'm always very thankful, letting them know that I appreciate the things that they do for me as a PE teacher and the things they do for our school as an elementary school.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate both of you guys taking time out to share your knowledge and experience with us. And I know, like I said earlier, I know a lot of people hands are hurting because both of you guys shared so many jewels with us, and we greatly appreciate it. So, if anyone have any questions for Dr. Torres or Coach Caver, please raise your hand and come off mute and share your questions that you might have. And I will review the chat to see if there's any questions in the chat.
Francina, there is
Yeah.
one in the chat from Courtney.
Okay.
It
Could Could you
Yeah, I
share?
was
Okay.
absolutely. I was going to say, yeah. Let me hop in and so it says that these are all great ideas. Is there any more help with middle school girls, grades 6 through 8? It says they're looking to revamp the way that they're doing PE, and they've started using a projector to have activities to follow, just like dancing or yoga, and trying to change things up with that kind of sports mentality. And we know middle school is a hard age, especially, well, I mean, I'm not going to say only girls, really boys at that point. We know it's when kids are kind of self-selecting. Are they going to be going into the sports track, or are they going to stay and just continue to learn PE and physical activity? So it seems like we hear this question a lot. Middle school is a hard age. So what kind of suggestions do y'all have?
I'll come off the mute for
So I
that
would
one.
love to field
Oh,
this one. So
okay, go ahead.
middle school is one of my favorite places to be because it is one of the most challenging. And so I give a lot of support to my middle school teachers. It takes a special person, I think, to take middle schoolers, just like it does in every level. But I think they're super special because the brain is working. It's barely trying to process things, their hormones, puberty, everything. So with middle school, we actually, we've done a couple of programs with the middle schoolers. And so we did write a grant with Oliver Foundation, and one was specific to middle school girls. And so we did a little summer program, basketball with them. And it was great because we got to tap into the things that they like, the things that they enjoy. And I think as teachers, we really need to focus on that. When I was doing my student internship way long ago, I had a teacher and she was like, let's do this survey. And I thought it was great. She did the survey. What do the kids want to learn? What sports, what activities do they want to do? And she did nothing with it. I felt like she said, oh, they love basketball, so let's not teach basketball. And I was just like, whoa, what is this about? So I definitely learned what I didn't want to do. So I think getting the students input, what they enjoy, what they want to do, how to change things up. In our high school, we decided to go to more of a weight training instead of physical education, where they're like, miss, I don't want to do this. So they got more involved with weight training because that's what they like. Also with the middle schoolers, we brought recess back. And so we went and decided, let's bring recess. They need to have that as well. They need to eat and play, And so, finding out what those middle schoolers want, and doing those things, doing all those lifetime activities, because this is the time that their bodies are changing, especially with girls. That body positivity has to be there, has to be taught, has to be spoken about. And then doing parent lessons on it as well, because the parents need to hear what the kids are feeling. Because sometimes we have parents, and my mom was one of them, that would be like, you're kind of getting fat, And I was just like, what? And so I think involving them as well, but I think you're on the right track doing those activities that they really would enjoy doing as a lifetime activity.
Yeah, and I just want to chime in just briefly. I don't have middle schoolers at my school. I'm an elementary teacher, so the oldest that I get are fourth graders. But I've already noticed, especially this year, that we've got several girls already in fourth grade that are like body shaming, or they hide their bodies. They want to wear big hoodies and big baggy pants, and their hair hides their face. I feel like they're just hiding from their body. And meanwhile, it's 102 degrees outside and we're jogging on the track, and they're like, no, 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 I'm fine. I'm fine. The sweater's staying on, and they're just dripping with sweat. And so with those students, I've kind of pulled them aside and just kind of had a little chit chat with them privately and said, hey, what's going on, and just kind of, I'm not, a supermodel body. I'm kind of a chunkier woman. And so I feel like they have a little bit more that they can relate with me. And I will just talk with them about what it was like when I was a young girl, and how there were certain things that I was embarrassed about. And their body does start changing at that age. And just having one-on-one conversations with them, and them understanding that we have gone through that before as well, sometimes makes all the difference. And then I'll also have a conversation with them about, your body's going to overheat. You're going to overheat in all those clothes. I said, trust me, let's see if we can find maybe a t-shirt that fits a little better. Because usually when they take their sweaters off, the t-shirt is like super tight. And then I'm like, oh yeah, now I see. I've also called home to mom and said, hey, how can I help with finding some better fitting clothes so that they're comfortable in their t-shirts and they don't feel like they need to wear those hoodies and have the long hair that's covering them? Because, fourth grade, their bodies are changing, they are developing, and not all of them develop at the same time. And it's shameful for them, and it should not be. And just having those one-on-one conversations with them and letting them understand we have been through that too, sometimes just makes all the difference. And then them knowing that you understand sometimes helps them to come out of their shell and drop some of that clothing and be a little bit more happy in the PE world.
Yeah, that health
Yes, and
lesson on them learning, like, what happens to your body? How is it changing? They don't know, and we assume as adults that they know what's happening, and they don't know. They don't understand, why are their hips widening? Why are they gaining more weight? What is happening? And so I think, if through education, that's the way to get it across to them and their parents. The parents understanding what's happening in their mind. How is their brain changing? How are their emotions changing? What are they doing during that adolescent development?
exactly. Thank you guys. And I spent 20 years in middle school, teaching middle school, all girls most of the time, and majority eighth grade. So what you guys shared is exactly hits home. Through trial and tribulations, I realized trying to force girls to be more sports focused is not where their mind is. But leading with a more fitness focus for middle school girls gets them more active and more involved, also incorporating fun activities for them. And not I was never heavy on games after a while. It was more skill as far as fitness goes and development of their overall fitness and health. And I would have specific days that I would do different things on a schedule. And my kids knew on these days, this is what we were going to do. They didn't know the specific activities. But for instance, Wednesdays would be my of course, Wellness Wednesdays, but we focused on mindfulness. So at the time, I would have the Calm app because the district I was in, Wednesdays was our early release days. And so instead of getting them dressed, we would do meditation. And after a while, the kids called it nap time. But, but, if that's what they wanted to call it. But, it's kind of shifting to identifying the needs of the students, and especially middle school, like mentioned middle school, their hormones are all over the place. And so it's how to get them to buy into the system, and it's incorporating activities that are more real world to them so they can make those connections, because let's be honest, many of them are not athletic as far as wanting to participate in sports, but you get them to do a dance, aerobics, even jogging or walking. Will buy into that. Also thinking about if your campus is more open to technology and them using their devices, how do you to incorporate their cell phones into the activity, because they're always trying to sneak and use it. So instead of them sneaking and using it, how can they use it in class in a meaningful way? And so that's just some tips. But feel free to reach out to us if you need some more middle school guidance, because I think between the three of us, we could give you way more. Are
Thank
there
you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much, Francina. And Dr. Torres, Coach Caver, y'all have been just immensely helpful as always. This was a wonderful session. The ideas, the lessons learned, just makes such a difference, and we hear that over and over again with this particular school health summit that we do. And so we appreciate you taking some time this morning to share the impactful work that you are doing in your districts across the state. And I agree. As we mentioned, for if somebody joined a little bit late, we do have everybody's bios posted, and we will ensure that we get everybody's contact information out in the event that some of our attendees want to reach out and maybe gather a little more information from you. It is time for us to turn our attention to Chad and our catch implementation specialist, who is going to lead us through a brain boost session. So, following our little stretching activity and movement activity that Chad will lead us in, we will take a little break and be back here at 11:20 for our next session, which is another fantastic one. So, Chad, there you are. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Alice. Good morning, everyone. My name is Chad Meisner. I'm a catch trainer, and I was invited to pop into this meeting and do a quick little activity with y'all. We're going to do a game called Cone Reaction that has been modified for the virtual learning environment. I've actually played this in person. Dr. Torres, I was in your district last spring playing with middle school teachers. So when I say go, I need everybody to stand up. And if you can, would love to have your cameras on. If you're not able to have your camera on, that's okay. Hopefully you can at least see me, because you're going to be racing me in this first round, but you're going to be racing some other people on screen in the second round. So go ahead and stand up. Give yourself a little bit of room if you're able to. And although we call this game Cone Reaction, let me adjust my camera. You just need any item that you can quickly grab. I have a pen, a water bottle would work, a cell phone, anything that you can quickly grab off your desk with one hand. So here's the game. That item goes on the desk in front of your computer. And when I say the magic word, which is cone, you want to be the first one to grab that and show it to me on your Zoom screen. But I'm going to task you by touching other body parts like ears, shoulders, hips, etc. Okay, we're ready? Here we go. First round. All right, remember, cone is the magic word, and you're going to be the first one to show me that item. If you're able, camera's on. If not, all good. All right, here we go. Ears, chin, shoulders, elbows, hips, ears, cone. I didn't see who got that first, but maybe Jennifer did. There you go, Jennifer. All right, we're going to change it slightly. So this time we're going to move our body. Same thing, magic word is cone, right? But we're going to move. When I say right, you're going to take one step to your right and back to center. Go ahead and do that, right? Back to center. If I say left, you're going to go left, back to center. If I say up, jump up. If I say down, you're going to do a squat. At any point, when I say the magic word, you want to be the first one to grab that cone. All right, ready? Left, back to center, up, right, down, up, left, cone. All right, perfect. And that is cone reaction. We played in a setting where we face two people. They face each other with the item in the middle, but this is a virtual adaptation. Thanks for letting me jump in and play a little activity break with y'all.
Thank you, Chad. We appreciate it so much. Okay, everybody, we are going to take a little break. Everybody just go refill some water, take a little walk around your desk, and we will be back at 11:20. welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our next session focused on youth risk prevention. I want to do a real quick mic check and ensure that all of our next presenters panel can hear and that we can hear them. So first off, we will be led. The moderator for this session again is another amazing Texas Action for Healthy Kids Steering Committee member, Ms. Diana Pearson from Texas Department of State Health Services will be moderating this session. Diana, can we hear you?
Yes.
Perfect.
I can hear you. You can hear me. Good.
Great. And then our panelist today is Dr. Joy Alonzo and Monica Reyes from Canutillo. And so let's ensure that we can hear their mics.
Howdy. Hello from College Station.
Yeah. Perfect. And Monica?
Yes, good morning.
Good
Yes,
morning.
I am here. And you're in College Station. We're in Canutillo, Texas, which is the tip of far west El Paso. Yeah, right before you get to the Rio Grande River.
Awesome. Glad to see you, Dr. Reyes.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Dr. Alonso.
All right. Okay, Diana, I'm going to turn things over to you.
For your introduction. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the last but not least session for the Fall Summit. Thank you for joining the Youth Risk Prevention session today. As Alice mentioned, my name is Diana Pearson, and I am the school public health nurse and team lead for the Department of State Health Services School Health Program. Within my role, I support the needs of the school health program, consult with school nurses throughout the state of Texas, and also represent DSHS on the Texas School Health Advisory Committee, and also provides support to the Stock Epinephrine Advisory Committee as needed. School health program is also involved in legislative activities such as analysis, review, and updates to the Texas Administrative Code rules. For example, the code rules, the rules for stock medication within schools, such as epinephrine autoinjectors, medications for respiratory distress, as well as opioid antagonists. So I also wanted to note that within the purview of the school health program, which is also required by legislation, anytime an unassigned medication is administered within the school setting, it is required to be reported to DSHS. And school health program does collect that data, which is then analyzed and reported, posted yearly to our webpage. So that's just a little background for me and the school health program. During this youth risk prevention session, I'm very excited to announce our presenters that are also subject matter experts within their fields. Today, we will hear from Dr. Joy Alonzo. She's a clinical associate professor at the Department of Pharmacy Practice at Texas A&M Irma Rangel College of Pharmacy. Dr. Joy Alonzo will speak to fentanyl awareness and opioid antagonists. And we also have with us today Dr. Monica Reyes, the Executive Director of Student Support Services in Canutillo ISD. And Dr. Monica Reyes will speak on her district's approach to addressing vaping and tobacco prevention. Please feel free to add your questions to the chat. And after we hear from both presenters, we'll have time at the end for questions and open discussion. So at this time, I will pass it along to Dr. Joy Alonzo.
Hi, so happy to be here today to talk about a little bit of fentanyl, and so glad to hear you mention some of the legislative, newer legislative action by the state of Texas relative to safe schools. Just like the unassigned epinephrine, we now have unassigned naloxone on campus, which is a very similar implementation. So, yeah, if you could, next slide, please. So right now we're dealing with a number of youth outbreaks that are extremely impactful. You can see Cleveland, Texas. This actually occurred in one high school in Cleveland ISD. There were 21 overdoses on campus in the first 10 weeks of school last year. So this started the first week of school in August of 23, and this outbreak ended about December of 2023. This was new. I had never seen this before at schools. We've had cluster outbreaks around schools at social events that impacted a number of students that were attached to those schools. This was actually in school. These kids came to school intoxicated and overdosed in school. So in class, in the men's room, this was extraordinary. So actually we developed an ORS team. One of the great, advantages of being at a land grant institution is it's my job to provide service to state entities and the people of Texas. So we actually formulated an ORS team, an opioid response team, and we met several times in Cleveland, and we put into place a plan of very short-term interventions, intermediate-term interventions, and long-term interventions for that school. And fortunately, working with law enforcement in a public safety, public health partnership, we were actually able to slow this down. Now, the good news is because of SB 629 and early compliance with that law by this school district, which was brilliant thinking on their part, not one of these kids passed away. Everybody survived. Now, we're still dealing, this particular community is highly impacted, and we've had unfortunately, some youth deaths. The last one was a 10th grader in the community, but not at school due to one of these school-based exposures. So that's an example of those unassigned medications and training really working. Now we expanded, at Cleveland, because of this risk, tremendous risk to these children, we expanded the naloxone distribution in the school to the assistant principals, to any faculty member who would agree to have it in their classroom, to transportation, to athletics, to band, to extracurricular activity instructors, anybody who on campus would be spending a significant amount of time with the kids. So that, that also makes the program a little bit more expansive, and you do have to track everything a little bit better, because if you're a nurse, a school nurse, it is a felony to administer expired naloxone. You cannot do that. So the requirements of this are that you have to maintain, an inventory of this product. But you can see it works. Carrollton, Texas is another really big outbreak we're still dealing with. Hayes County, that's San Marcos area, continues to be very, very highly impacted. 3 overdoses per week in youth and young adults still. Now, not as many mortality events, but still, a drastic increase in the number of overdoses in youth as compared to adults in Texas. Adults have kind of flattened out. Unfortunately, youth overdoses have tripled year over year, every year since 2019, with no slowdown in sight, despite less exposure. Texas A&M, we've been doing the Texas School Survey for 35 years, and we actually see fewer exposures to illicit substances. However, the substances they are exposed to are so lethal that we're finding that the overdose and mortality events are much higher. So you can see the last one we're dealing with here is Travis County, 79 overdoses in 3 days. That was April 29th to May 2nd. And these were all youth and young adult overdoses. And this was in the community, not school-based, but these are all students that we worry about, and try to come up with community-based risk prevention and targeted interventions to stop the number of overdoses. Any questions on that? Please stop me at any time. Next slide, please. So why is this happening? Unfortunately, in Texas and in the United States, we have a mental health crisis. Look at that, the one I highlighted in yellow. 75% of students, youth, who reported they have a mental health, behavioral health issue in Texas, reported they did not get services. Unfortunately, we do many, many things well in Texas, many things. Access to mental and behavioral health for youth is not one of them. We rank 52nd out of the 50 states in access to care for youth for mental and behavioral health. 52nd. That's behind Guam and Puerto Rico. So in the history of keeping track of suicide attempts in the state of Texas, we're currently at the highest rate, and the highest rate age band is 11 to 14-year-olds. So we're in a particularly challenging mental health crisis with our youth. And this is part of self-medication. That's the trust hustle. So the dealers actually take advantage of this situation, and they are promoting counterfeit pharmaceuticals to our students in our schools with the tagline that this is the smart play. I'm gonna fulfill that need for you. These just make you feel chill. And it's a huge problem. Next slide, please. So when I talk about counterfeit pharmaceuticals, this is what I'm talking about. At Cleveland, we actually found these M30s. These are counterfeit pharmaceuticals that are completely produced by the cartels. They are not medical diversion. It has nothing to do with that. It's not an aftermarket issue where, that they take genuine oxycodone and add fentanyl to it. Nope, they're natively illicit fentanyl that is manufactured but with very simple precursors, chemical precursors by the cartels. So the blue are actually counterfeit OxyContin, or street name M30s. The peach are counterfeit Adderall or amphetamine salts. There is absolutely no way on visual inspection or any other kind of inspection that you can determine which is authentic and which is counterfeit. There's absolutely no way to know. The only way to know is to send them to the FBI lab in Dallas and wait 6 months. And then the oblong are counterfeit Xanax. Again, none of the parent, the originator, or the authentic drug is in there. These are strictly fentanyl or fentanyl mixed with meth. That's the new thing, or fentanyl mixed with meth mixed with xylazine, which is a veterinary product. So, this is extremely difficult, and kids really like this, and they it gets marketed to them on Snapchat and on Instagram with a menu. The dealers use a menu. Lots of the dealers are actually high school students themselves. So here you have this is the Forever 15 project that was started in Hays County from the victims' families to try to honor their memory. Noah Rodriguez, 15 years old. Kevin McConville, 17 years old. The last kid, I can't remember his name, but he was in the orchestra. He was 15 years old. So this continues to be an issue. Despite a lot of awareness campaigns, we need something different. We need a prevention education program that's evidence-based, that actually gives kids strategies, something other than don't be like this kid, right? So, and actually the state of Texas actually just passed laws, HB 3908, which is colloquially known as Tucker's Law. Next slide, please. So what works? So SB 629, we already discussed this. This does work. Any school can get free naloxone at naloxonetexas.com. So you can get as much as your organization needs. You can get it you can get it for your resource officers. You can get it for your clinics, and every school. And I would recommend every single school. The legislation indicates 6th to 12th grade. Recently in Houston ISD, we did everybody, K to 12, everybody. And that's a good implementation because you never know who may be on your campus that may need to be rescued. So this is a great implementation. If this is something you're having difficulty with, it does require that you have a standing order for your school district signed by a Texas licensed physician. If this is something that you're struggling with, please notify Texas A&M. You can just email me and we will get that taken care of for you in a day, in an afternoon. School board policy is required. Sometimes you have to go to the shack. All those things are time consuming, but we do have model policy and a model standing admin order. I just got word that actually the state is requiring the admin order to be signed every year. So just be aware of that. And then of course, naloxone Texas, we can walk you through how to order your naloxone, and that is bought for school districts, for the people of the state of Texas. Do not, consider that, oh, well, I don't have it as a line item in my budget. You don't need to. You can buy it and have it on hand. This actually works. So, saved arguably, thousands of lives so far, just in the short time that this has been implemented. Next slide, please.
Dr. Alonso, if I may just add, I know that school districts are very tight in budgets, specifically this year. And so we went out to look for grants to be able to find the opportunity. And so we actually were able to have one for each of our campuses for our nurses through a grant and didn't have to pay for anything. So
well, you should never have to pay for naloxone, Dr. Reyes.
Well,
NaloxoneTexas.com is UT San Antonio. They got $50 million to provide free naloxone for every school district in this state.
Thank you.
If anybody is paying for this, please let me know. You should not ever pay for this. We have enough for the millennium. So, and they ship it directly to you. And if you need it faster, there's regional, including in West Texas, there's regional areas that you could drive to and get it within 48 hours.
Thank you for highlighting that.
Yeah, I do, it's really important because I don't want school districts wasting their precious resources on something that's already paid for. And that is key. And we have to make sure that you get the word that you do not, and it's great that you got a grant. That's fantastic, but I'd rather get you got a grant for something else that you may need because this is already paid for. And if you need certification for your folks, we do it for free. We never charge. We are not a business. We never charge for any of our services for any school district. So we do that for free. At anything else you need for your school, again, Texas A&M, we provide all that. We just are having a hard time getting the word to the school districts. So, so this is Tucker's Law. This is actually to take the place of all the non-evidence-based programs that have been out there, like Just Say No, Red Ribbon Week, and DARE. I'm not saying that they're not great for awareness, but they're not prevention education, and they're certainly not evidence-based. So, all the things that are ignored, generational addiction, adverse child events, lack of mental and behavioral health access in your community, all these things conspire against any of those programs having a good outcome. So evidence-based slogans like billboards, one pill can kill, great for adults, terrible for kids, doesn't have any traction whatsoever. Recovery stories, testimonials, scare-based tactics. Actually, there's some evidence from the DEA of all places that says that it makes it worse. The ADAPT, prevention intervention resources indicate that all these programs may in fact have, at best no impact, at worst actually make things worse. So if you have like victims' families coming in, I think those are great for PTAs and for adult awareness, but they glorify it to kids and they violate social norms. Again, 21 kids at a particular school, that's a lot of kids to overdose at school. There's 5,000 kids that go to that school though. So, you have to, make sure that you're not giving the message that this is normal and that everybody's doing it. And also you need the message to, what do I do? If I encounter these, the illicit substance use and it's my friends and the dealer's usually a charming guy and everybody's friend, what do I do? How do I extract myself? And so that's where evidence-based refusal skills come in. So we're going to talk about that. Next slide, please. So this is one offering. There are others certainly, but at Texas A&M, we wrote the program Think Smart. And here it's based on evidence-based strategies that work. Again, role-playing, facilitated discussions with the kids, simulated peer pressure scenarios where we have them practice with each other, extracting themselves. Measuring outcomes is key. We have to pre and post test kids for knowledge, self-efficacy, attitude, all those issues, and how have they internalized these skills that we're trying to develop. Ensuring that social norms framework is emphasized, that this is something that is not consistent with your goals. Motivational interviewing and goal setting is so important. And we get, the idea is they teach us as much as we teach them, because they teach us like the situations that they find themselves in. They live and die on Snapchat, as you guys, I'm sure with cell phone proliferation. These kids are constantly videoing each other, even with vaping at the 5th grade. I mean, they're vaping each other. They're constantly videotaping substance misuse. And so, how do you extract yourself from that? So this is compliant with HB 3908, this program, and it's TX compliant. You want to find something that you don't have to pay for. Again, at Texas A&M, we provide all this to school districts for no charge, including all the materials need. We have it cookbook. We have it set up like a cookbook so that we own the videos. We own the rights to all of it. And your teachers are not, or your nurses or your counselors are not looking for any other information. It's all in the guidebook. And I just wrote all the Canvas shells for it. So it just gets ported over into Canvas. It does have a student workbook that goes with it that is also Canvas friendly. We also produce, next slide, please, some wraparound products to go with it. We produced a peer-authored, this is kid-authored, a graphic novel called Split Second, Peer-to-Peer Authentic Messaging that reinforces the refusal skills for the kids, and super, very youth engaging, youth centric. And the next product, next slide, please. So you can see some of the artwork, which is all kid produced. This was 15 to 17-year-olds that are actually finishing it up. Next slide, please. And a companion phone game that goes, a mobile game that goes with it, a group mobile game. Again, it employs group contingency management, which is an evidence-based psychosocial support. And again, they get to practice refusal skills in a simulation together. So they actually are able to band together to exploit the relationships they have with themselves. If you think of it this way, they sort of have a pact. When they go to these parties, they sort of have a pact where they say, like, if I go, I'm taking you with me. If I have to leave, if I don't want to continue using you, I drag you out with me. So so these materials, so there's a question in the chat. These materials are available from Texas A&M. When you agree, if you want to implement Think Smart, we give you the whole thing. We give you all these materials, the phone game, the access to Split Second, and of course the Think Smart modules that are part of, that are compliant with HB 3908 and text compliant. So these are all available free of charge for any ISD in the state of Texas. We are happy to work with you. Some of the barriers to implementation are where you put it in your curriculum. So we have at Texas City, one of our earlier adopters, we actually put it into PE, and if the kids weren't taking PE, then it was off-season sports. So football's like just finishing up right now, so we put it in where, for kids that are in football, not, coming up. And so we have 5 hours, 5 lessons that are 5 hours, and then the other 5 hours are part of, due to, you can get the 5 hours with a parent component, and using the take-home student workbook on Canvas, and then also Trust Hustle, this multiplayer phone game, and then the Split Second graphic novel. So that's how we get in the 10 hours that are required. So we also have it down to K. This is the sort of the middle school, high school implementation, but we also have age appropriate materials down to the K to 3 folks too. Next slide, please. So we also are trying to work in youth evidence-based medication-assisted treatment. It might be surprising to see some of the nurses that buprenorphine or Suboxone is FDA approved down to the age of 16. I am starting to have more providers to be able to do that if a kid really actually does have opioid use disorder and they need long-term treatment for cravings. So we do actually provide this care through several partners. You're never going to see a Texas A&M professor say this, but that would be UTMB and also UT Houston have, but we have to proliferate that to the west, and actually we're working really hard to try to stand up provision to this in Victoria, down south, in the west, and of course up north in the Panhandle too. So this is this is your best chance of recovery. But this is not for everybody. This is for kids diagnosed. Next slide, thanks. Next slide, please. And that's it. If you have any questions or you want to hear more about these products and services or how we could bring them to you, that we would love to talk to you and assist you with compliance with this legislation. This is something that we are passionate about and committed to. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Alonso. I just love your passion and I love the work that you are all doing. I'll pass it over to Dr. Monica Reyes now, and then we'll get into questions afterwards.
Perfect. Oh, Dr. Alonso, where were you 5 years ago, right after the pandemic? That's all I have to say. Thank you for all of that. We are definitely going to be contacting you. So I'm going to just talk a little bit. I'm going to bring us back 100 years in history to the good old tobacco, where it was all about just the traditional cigarettes. And so once cigarettes became easier to make, tobacco companies, they began to develop and expand on their cigarette market. And so these, as you can see here, are original companies that are still around today. And as always, these companies continue to use advertising strategies so that they can convince people to continue to use them. Next slide. So if you look at these ads, what do you notice about them? Well, they're depicting doctors saying, oh, it's okay. It's okay if you smoke. Look at the one that says that we have this many physicians who agree to claim that Luckies are less irritating. And so many of our tobacco companies, they have tried to convince the customers that cigarettes are not only harmless, but they're okay for your health. It's okay. And again, this is about 100 years ago. So in reality, we're talking about tobacco companies that hired actors to play doctors and dentists so that they could mislead the public. And once they did that, they were able to get people to start using the cigarettes, their products. And then after a while, we started to see how it affected health. So we're looking at the fact that they said, well, this is a good way to profit off of people's health. Next slide, please. And so what did they do? They decided, well, women were doing it behind closed doors, but if we can advertise and market to women and say, you know what, we can make this a little bit more fashionable. And, oh, if we depict them as very thin and sexy, this is going to help us to push out our product. Not only did they do this with females, next slide, they also did this with our males, telling them, oh, look, how macho. How many of you know the Marlboro Man? It's something that they continue to process. And so they ingrain this into our public, which eventually then, as our older people continue to smoke cigarettes, it passed down from one generation to the next. Next slide. And so here we are now in schools where we're catching the kids with cigarettes and trying to promote and entice them through venues that would work for them. So take a look at these examples here of the cigarette ads. that aren't intended for adult use. They're intended for children. And so if they can appeal to the kids and to the teens, they can try and hook the customers at a younger age and then get them connected to the brands that they promote at an early age. Next one. If you see, it said the base of our potential is the high school student. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is as we evolve into the vaping and the e-cigarettes. So when we're talking about how much is that so now let's fast forward to e-cigarettes and the industry. So they represent the amount of nicotine, the e-juice through milligrams per milliliter. So you will see that they say it's only 5% nicotine. So for kids, they're saying, oh, 5%, that's nothing. For parents, oh, 5%, that's nothing. However, when you are looking at all of these different types of e-cigarettes or vaping pens, it's confusing because ultimately you are looking, when you are talking about a joule, it's 41.3 milligrams. 41.3, which tells us the strength is not just 5%. And the reason I say this, if you'll go to the next slide, the reason I say this is because they talk about e-cigarettes and that's why they call it vaping, because there's like a water vapor that comes out. Not true. And why I'm covering this is because many of our parents in our school districts across the nation don't realize exactly how e-cigarettes and vaping plays a role in students' health. Because it is a new product, we are looking at the fact that we don't have a whole lot of data on how it's impacting students and kids age 12, 13 that are utilizing these vaping tools, and then what it's doing to their life, because it's going to take a little while. Sadly, that is what is happening. So if you'll go to the next slide for me, please. So this is the depict of a vape. It's water moisture. That's what they're saying it is, but it's not. It's actual chemicals that are coming out. They allow the person who's using it, this large cloud, it's a mixture of different chemicals that either are presented in the e-liquid before or that are produced during that heating process. And so it's a chemical that's actually evaporating. And the reason I say this is because it's also considered an aerosol, which mixes with the liquid, and it's suspended into this gas that contains all these chemicals. And so when it does, it falls onto different surfaces. And this is why it's important. Next slide. So you're looking here at a list of about 67 chemicals that are found in e-cigarettes or e-pods or vaping pens that are based off of the aerosol. 67 chemicals. And so remember, when that vape goes up, it's got to go somewhere. And so it trickles down and falls onto surfaces, or it could still remain in the air. Next slide for me, please. So what I want to make sure you understand is, can you click for me one more time? Thank you. Third hand. So we know when we talk about cigarettes, there's that secondhand smoke. Well, now with vaping, there's a third hand aerosol. So what ends up happening is it becomes a danger to people other than the user because of this third hand aerosol. What that third hand aerosol is, it's a mixture of chemicals that's in the e-cigarette or the vape pen, and it remains on surfaces and in dust. And as it reacts with other chemicals in the environment, it forms toxic chemicals. So this is something that's very important that people understand. So if our kids are in their rooms and they're vaping, and then they are experiencing third hand aerosol, it could very well be that third hand is touching their younger siblings. specifically toddlers. You know how toddlers love to go and walk around and touch things and put things in their mouth. If that chemical is still present, they are receiving that third-hand aerosol. So potentially it's a harmful chemical that exposes other people. It can expose animals through the respiratory system, through the ingestion, and through skin exposure. And so, yes, small children are specifically at risk for this third-hand aerosol. So it's not just the user. Next slide. Okay, so who's going to replace the old smokers? So we now have seen commercials where we've had people that long-term have been smoking and they have had cancer, and so they've had to have pieces of their body removed. They've had respiratory issues. And so, again, Dr. Alonso said the scare tactics may not necessarily work. However, the reality has to show that after a long time, if you're looking at smoking cigarettes, this is potentially what could happen to you. And so that is one of the things that we do in our school district is we make kids aware of the long-term health issues that are present when you are using nicotine, or in some cases with the vaping for THC. So we really try to put out the reality of what happens there. Next slide for me, please. So what's happening now? Okay, Juul comes into play and they realize, wait a minute, we've got a new market. We can market our teens. We can market our high school students. We can even market our middle school students, ages 13 to 18. And so that is what's happening. They are now putting out commercials and marketing towards our kids. We now have discovered in our schools different vaping tools, everything from a highlighter to the hoodies with the strings. If you see a student that's got the string, they have embedded the vape into that string so that you can't tell. USBs. So our students have USBs in their classrooms and on their possession. Some of those USBs have now been caught as vaping pens. So what we try to do in our school district is to inform parents about all of these different contraptions that are normal items, normal household items, normal school supply items, but are now being utilized as vapes. So in the school district for us, we have now found that our JJAP, which is our Juvenile Justice Alternative Education Placement Program, has now been overridden and over capacity because of vaping. And so what our district here in El Paso, Texas, and the institution of JJAP has said, we can't do this anymore. You cannot send us every single student that is caught vaping, specifically also with THC. So now we as a region have said, okay, so we will hold on to our kids and they will now, as a punitive consequence, be part of our Discipline Alternative Education Placement Program. And so we are now housing them there. But we have seen a major uptick in the number of students who have been utilizing vaping, and even within, as Dr. Alonso had stated, on school grounds. Students have been caught vaping in the restrooms. They've been caught vaping in isolated areas. And so as we have looked at this and seen how the number has increased, moreover, in the last few years, we have really had to figure out what are we going to do as a school district on the preventive side, like Dr. Alonso said, which is beautiful, on the preventive side. So here in Canutillo, we have a full-time person, which we call a prevention specialist. And Mr. Juarez is the person and the go-to person as the resource and as the coordinator who helps to support the campuses when we are seeing an uptick in specific classes, specific time periods, specific places, specific grade levels. And we really look at peeling the onion when a student is caught with a vape pen or caught vaping because of the coping skills. So I've had opportunities to talk to kids as well as our social workers, our counselors, our administrators, and our prevention specialist. And there's one case that resonated with me where a student was sent to DAP because he was vaping. When we had a conversation with him, he was dealing with some family situations where his brother was put away into a federal prison. And so his parents were having to coping with what happened to his older brother. When we asked him, why are you vaping? He said, well, this is the way I can deal with it because I don't want to be an issue for my parents. I don't want to have to become a problem because they're dealing with my older brother's issues. And I did ask the child, and he was a 7th grader. And I said, have you ever thought about talking to your mom about how you feel about your brother being sent to prison? And he said, no. And I said, why not? And he says, because I don't want to cause more issues for them. They're already stressed out enough as it is. And I'm not as important as my brother is with his issues. So I'm just trying to stay invisible. As he's saying this to us, we're realizing this is his coping skill. This is how he's coping with the whole issue, is by vaping. Why? Because he had friends that he did share some of this information, and instead of them helping him and guiding him to a trusted adult, they said, well, here, try this. This will make you feel better. This will help you. And so he's now caught up in that issue. My next question to him was, well, now that you're in DAP and you're dealing with this, what would you say to yourself 3 months ago once this happened? And he said, I would try and find somebody who could help me figure out how to deal with this. He didn't mention mom and dad. He just said, I wanted to find somebody else. And so we really have tried to work with this student, with our social worker, with our DAP counselor, so that they know that they can find a trusted adult somewhere if they feel that they don't want to be a burden on mom and dad at this point. However, we bring in the family as well, because that well-being of the family and the whole child is important to us, which is also including the family. We also have a first offenders program that we are working on and trying to ensure that if a student is caught vaping and we look at grades, we look at discipline, they haven't had any issues, we look at the reason why they're vaping, we really try to provide that support to students. We are a district of innovation here in the state of Texas. That is one of the components that is allowable if you choose to as a district. And so as the law states, that anyone that is caught vaping, especially THC, is having to be sent to DAP or JJAP. With our first offenders, we're trying to not make things as punitive, but more of wraparound services and try to really address the well-being of the child and the family. We hold parent universities. Those parent universities are to equip our parents with the education of vaping. Just as I told you earlier, we do go through these Stanford University PowerPoint slides, and I've just given you a little snippet of those. We do utilize these and tell them how it's evolved and where it is today. We try to equip our parents with the education of what to look for with their kids if they believe that they're vaping. Nowadays, vaping cigarettes, you could tell the smell. It was a distinct smell, but with vaping, very different. It smells like strawberries. It smells like vanilla. And so parents are not equipped to realize the signs and the symptoms, what to look for if a child is vaping. So we do hold parent universities for our parents and community members who are interested in learning more about it. We are trying to move to a more proactive and preventive measure And I think Dr. Alonso is going to have some emails and correspondence from here in Canutillo once I get off with my prevention specialist so that we can start looking at the evidence-based program. We do need to do more for that, especially with curriculum. At this point, it's more of just classroom one shot instead of something that's more comprehensive, and we want to move in that direction. We are very progressive in being on the preventive side rather than more interventive. That's what you want to be. You want to be more preventive. So when we look at all of this, I agree with Dr. Alonso on it is a mental health crisis. Our students are not handling the issues that are happening to them well, and so they're looking for ways to feel good. I also believe that as far as the mental health crisis, we are dealing with the stigma still that we are not to share our feelings, especially in the Hispanic culture. We try to keep our problems, within the four walls of our home. And so we have really worked with our parents and our community to help them and guide them in understanding the crisis at hand when it comes to vaping, and really try to provide supports and resources through our parent liaisons and our prevention specialists. So we're working as diligent, I'm sure, as many school districts are, but it is a crisis, and Dr. Alonso is correct. The one-shot red ribbon week, the just say no, it's not enough. We have to do much more, and we've got to change the way we do things. And so we're doing it one student and one family at a time, and just making sure that we peel the onion when a student is expressing help through the use of vaping pens. So that's pretty much what is happening here at Canutillo.
Thank you, Dr. Reyes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just soaking in all of this information, and as a parent of school-age children, yes, it is it's pretty scary. I did want to open up to questions now. I'm just looking at the time here. This is not just for Dr. Alonso, but this question is not just for Dr. Alonso, but also for you, Dr. Reyes. But Dr. Alonso, you spoke about increasing evidence-based prevention education and how scare tactics do not work. For initiatives to be successful, addressing lack of resources, mental health, and social issues is important. Are there any other takeaways that you can provide for school districts and staff seeking to increase support systems? I do want to mention again how Dr. Reyes had talked about implementing a prevention specialist and focusing on coping skills. As we know, during the pandemic, it's pretty clear that even adults are kind of lacking those coping skills that we might need in times of stress. So if you, either one of you, think there's any additional takeaways to increase those support systems.
Dr. Reyes, is it okay if I go first? I'm so sorry. Yeah, so I want to make sure that all the school districts understand that they have access to TChat. I'm going to put that in the chat, TChat. If you have not set up TChat or signed the NDA with TChat, that is, again, a service that is provided in schools, 2 to 4 sessions with a clinical psychologist for a child that is identified at risk. I'm not sure if I'm looks like I'm direct messaging. I wanted to do to everybody, but I'll do that after I get done talking. But TChat is free of charge. This is, again, adjudicated by the psychologists and psychiatrists that belong to all the land-grant institutions, to include Texas Tech, University of Texas, and Texas A&M. And we provide, this is a full-time job. This is not a research or, this is an operational implementation. So if you haven't yet got TChat implemented at your school district, I encourage you to do so, so that you have access at least to, you know, a crisis intervention, 2 to 4 sessions that the child and the family do not have to pay for. I think, correct me if I'm not wrong, Dr. Reyes, but I do believe you have to have permission for minors to engage.
Yes, you do have to have permission. And for TChat here in Ganotio, I know that they offer 6 free sessions.
6
And then,
sessions, and it
yes.
varies. I know it's at least 2 to 4, 6 sessions. That's excellent. Actually, we're just going for a grant to actually give you 18 months worth.
Nice.
You know, for kids that are identified with risk, who have trauma and need more care in the community. You know, and especially where in those communities where it's not available. The problem is with exactly the kind of student, this is exactly the kind of kid we come across, you know, on a daily basis relative to substance use disorder is I don't want to tell my parents. I don't want to, you know, have this be a burden. So how do we, you know, how do we provide services for that kid and who's using it for a coping skill for an undiagnosed mental and behavioral health care issue? That is so challenging. I know that you do too. In East Texas, I have, you know, 60% of our patients are undocumented. And they don't, you know, even in an overdose situation, they don't want to be transported. Scares the living daylights out of me, you know, and then having entire counties that don't have access to acute care facilities. That's just something, you know, as a group, as people, you know, that are engaged with students and with schools, we have to advocate better for services for kids under, you know, this is and I'm so disappointed in this current election cycle. I haven't heard one single solitary person talk about the crisis of youth mental health, that 1 in 4 in Texas. I have not heard one candidate speak to this. You know, forget about just the overdose aspect. Let's just talk about mental health and that's driving everything else. And so, you know, constantly, and that's my job. I mean, you know, constantly trying to push the legislature, you know, in our state to provide more access to mental health, especially for kids. You know, I always get, oh, well, there's plenty of telehealth. Not in the rural areas, there's not, and you have to pay for that. You know, if you're undocumented or uninsured, you can't access that. So teach out is one thing I'd say. And then, of course, like any assistance, any problems that any of the school districts are having or noticing. You're doing a fantastic job with vaping.
Joy, can I interrupt you just a minute? Can you explain what TChat is for those of us who are not
Yeah,
familiar with it?
so I'm going to read it right from their website.
Okay.
So I'm just going to read the actual name of the acronym. TCHAT is the Texas Child Health Access Through Telemedicine, TCHATT. And I'm trying to put the website into, but I'm just for some reason I'm set to direct message and not to everyone for some reason, and I can't figure out how to put it to everyone. I'm just going to do it to the summit. Hopefully that's everybody. So this is the website that you, if you look in the chat, where you can actually sign up for TChat, and this includes private and charter schools as well. This is not a public school implementation. So TChat is again provided by the various land grant institutions, Baylor, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, and we cut it up by region. But if you look at the website, you can see that you know, every region in Texas is covered. I'm looking at you, Dr. Reyes. I see like the purple is covered, but there's still significant white spaces, which which gives me great concern. Again, this is a paid for resource. You do not pay for this. Right. This is something that's already prepaid. We have sunk millions upon millions of dollars into this system, so to provide this care. So there's a question, those districts that have it at their campuses, how are they able to offer private online counseling sessions in school without adult supervision? So I'll let Dr. Reyes, I'm presuming that this is implemented at your school district, yes?
Yes, yes. And just so I can expand, we do have our mental health entities here that we have entered into multiple MOUs. And so we actually have several of these organizations that are able to come into our schools. We have spaces set up for their therapist, for a facilitator, for a counselor, whatever they can provide. And they do provide in school services to our kids. How that works is that the entities for us, it's Emergence Health Network, it's Project Vida. They all there actually exist in 8 of our 10 campuses right now. And so they provide family services as well as individual services for our students. And so those therapy sessions are done on campus grounds so that kids are not having to miss school and not skip a beat. So that those spaces are sacred for them, and parents give permission and they know when their sessions are. And so the therapist will call the student out, take them to the office, have the session, and then the child will go back to class. So we have been very diligent in calculating scheduling those on the basis of the student and their needs. And so we have TChat available here. We have several other mental health entities that provide the on campus. And we are looking also at an MOU with a private therapist to be held at the satellite office, central office that we have, so that we have some close proximity for our parents to not have to travel, across town. They can do it here within our community and be able to get the services that they need, which is the wraparound, student and family.
So again, there's a question, like a follow-up question on TChat specifically. So again, just like what Dr. Reyes expressed at Texas A&M and Texas Tech, the way we do it is there's an MOU with the school. So there's a process and procedure that's very well worked out, that once you onboard with TChat, it is true that, you have to have supervision and it requires parent support. That is true. So a counselor would be present during that counseling session, but this is all worked out through a process that TChat has established. But I highly, it's not perfect, but it's definitely better than nothing.
Correct.
And this is, I'm not saying that online telehealth sessions are the end all and the be all and going to solve all your problems. But we are aggressively trying to get DAEPs to implement this, because we're having the same problem. And everywhere in Texas, the vaping issues have been escalating and sending kids into DAEP, and we are tapped out. Pasadena, Houston, Dallas-Fort Worth, the DAEPs cannot handle the number of children that are being referred. And additionally, we're trying to actually establish services, again, preventive services, so during ISS, so that we have, an abbreviated service for ISS that we can continue with that child out even when they're released from ISS. So we understand that that the school districts are suffering. Some of these laws are great, but there's unintended consequences, and we have to address that and remove the barriers for you to implement something that makes sense for your district. But what aggrieves me greatly is that TChat's paid for. You paid for it, and if you don't implement it, it's like, oh, and again, like any of these things that are established and free resources for us, for Texas A&M, the price of admission is you just have to take the training with us, and then we give you everything, including our time, like all the technical support we need. TChat's the same way. All you have to do is a couple of administrative steps to implement, and then you get everything that they have to offer. And the caliber of clinician that they have is just these are incredible and passionate people who only want to work with youth. The folks that run T-Chat at Texas A&M, they moved to Texas A&M just to do T-Chat, the psychiatrists and the psychologists. So I can't, it's just something, and we can do expert with, we can train your nurses to do brief screening, brief intervention, and referral to treatment. And that's where we try to find that next resource if longer term resources are needed.
Of time, are there any more questions that Dr. Reyes or Dr. Alonso can answer?
Please contact us. We would love to help anybody with SB 629 compliance we can help with your resource officers. I have, ex-police officers and DEA agents that speak officer speak, so that they have, that they can have a better rapport with the law enforcement. We'd be happy to do community, parent outreach, anything that you need. We have resources to address and can come and help you with these problems. And nobody has more empathy for the school districts. The teachers are so put upon. You guys have, just tremendous number. Every time there's a piece of legislation, it seems like you have to stick something else in the curriculum. And there's just no time. So we have to find a way to, put some of these together and come up with a comprehensive, evidence-based, program that makes sense instead of you guys having to piece pieces together and go on the web. And not that I don't love Stanford. I do love that Stanford program, Dr. Reyes, I do, but it's too long. You do the whole thing. It's like 35 hours.
Right.
And so, yeah, we have to come up with sensible, evidence-based, programs for you that actually produce results. And so that's what
what I appreciate is a lot of times we get these unfunded mandates, and the fact that you are providing some resources for us that don't tap into our operational budget is just amazing. So we appreciate that too.
I think we have a bounty, actually. We offer you money.
We'll take it.
We offer you money to come and implement Think Smart, because we know the training, you have to invest time in the training, and sometimes you don't even have the time, right? So we do require that the school districts train with us, but that's for free too. We try to make that as painless as possible. But it is true that we don't want you to have to pay for anything that's already paid for, and we have to take away every barrier for all the school districts, not the well-funded school districts and the school districts that are resource challenges, to be able to implement these programs. That's always been a huge objective. So happy to help. Anything we can do. And if you have suggestions on how to improve, I mean, we're definitely all ears, and we want to hear what we can improve, what other services you need, how we can, address certainly anything to do with mental and behavioral health care of our students.
I just want to thank everyone who's here and investing, because just like we've gone from a pandemic to an endemic with COVID, vaping has become
doing good. Both doing good.
All of it has become an endemic now. And so it's just the way that kids feel that they can cope. And we've got to shift that needle so that they are looking for trusted people, trusted adults, rather than these types of tools that are detrimental. So thank you everyone for your investment in wanting to find and seek new ways and resources. We're not the catch-all. We are here just to support and just to give you our ideas, but we're always constantly searching and looking too. So kudos to all of you at the school districts that are fighting the fight with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Alonso and Dr. Reyes. I'd like to just thank you both again for joining us and sharing your wealth of knowledge on youth risk prevention within the school setting. At this time, I'll pass this back over to either Alice or Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you, Diana, for putting together an amazing panel. And Dr. Alonso, Dr. Reyes, the information that you have shared is just tremendous. And we are so very thankful that you joined us today for this discussion, this very important discussion. And so what we would like to do now for everyone that's still hanging on, please complete this survey for us. Annually, we put together this, 2-day conference event virtually. We've been doing it for, well, I guess, again, since pandemic. We really kind of moved to a virtual versus in-person conference. And we love to hear from everyone who did participate in the sessions, because that's how we learn. We need to ask what worked well, what didn't, what would you like to see? Is there something else that you want us to cover in future sessions? Do we need to bring back presenters and expand, etc.? So thank you very much. And we really would like everybody's input. Michelle's dropped it into our chat, as well as the QR code here if you've got your phone handy. Michelle, do you have some additional words you want to share?
My mute button disappeared. Too many screens open. I just want to thank everyone who has joined us for the last 2 days. There has been a lot of good information, good resources, good ideas. We appreciate everyone who presented and shared your knowledge and your talents and your time. I know everybody's really busy, so appreciate everyone coming and joining us for 2 half days, and appreciate all of you who have brought your time and talents to the table and shared. And I can't believe we didn't know there were these free resources out there, Joy. We need to get something from you we can put out in our newsletter. We have a newsletter that goes to 4,000 across the state that we can definitely share and pump up your numbers a little bit, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I would please use the QR code, use the link in the chat. We will be sending a follow-up email with PowerPoints. Should have active links in those, as well as a link to the actual recordings that we've done, so that you can share that out with people that you think might be interested in watching. And just thank you so much for joining us the last 2 days.
Absolutely. Thank you to everyone. And this concludes our session for today. Please remember to join the Shack Network if you have not.